Shows how little you know politics.
Choose your destiny.
You can go left or you can go right. You can go forward, but never ever back.
I want to hear your thoughts.
Good evening, my little one. I shall make you psychotic.
Mommy, what does psychotic mean?
I want to hear your thoughts.
Choose your destiny.
You can go left or you can go right. You can go forward, but never ever back. Yeah. Woke up. I ain't feeling your side.
Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all feel? Remember, an educated public cannot be controlled. Learn to be active. The views and events expressed here are totally whack and are not necessarily the views of anyone. ¿Cómo estás? Bien, bien, bien. ¿Podemos ayudarnos más? Sí se puede. And don't take my word for it. Look that mess up. Sí se puede. How y'all feel, man? I feel good today. I feel good. I feel good. It's a good day. It's a good day. Any day above ground is what they say, right? Yeah, so the name of the show today is Who to Vote For. I want to look it up to double check, but I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Biden may have earned my vote. I know to the people who view the show all the time would be like, what the F? But I got a text message from my school that said they randomly selected me for a grant to cover the rest of my freaking to cover my school for my last semester. Well, not to cover it all, but to cover a past due balance that I had. And they paid for it. And it's really a big deal to me. So, I know how a lot of people, the way they decide on who they're going to vote for is how it affects them personally. So I don't know if anybody can really be upset with me if I do feel that way about voting for Biden, because I'm gonna look it up probably during the show, but to be 100% on it. But they passed some stuff where they was giving school money to the schools, universities here in Texas, and it was a number of schools that received funding here in Texas. And University of Houston is the school that I go to, and they received a substantial amount of money. And I guess they were looking for ways to spend the money or what to spend the money on. And so, like I say, I was randomly selected for a grant that covers some past due balance because I was about to graduate, and they're like, it's some kind of I don't know, about to graduate grant or whatever. And they gave it to me, man, and I'm thankful as hell. Like, would it have been the same if it would have been somebody else's administration in the White House? I don't know. But I'm saying, I don't know, if how you choose on who you vote for, how it affects you personally, I can't blame you for feeling that way. So if that's what it is, that's what it is. I haven't voted in a presidential election in a while now, even though I'm really, really into politics. I don't I don't like to choose between stir fry shit and bake shit. I don't like to feel pressured to vote against the other guy instead of having policies that motivate me to want to vote for you, to support you. Instead, your motivation is to vote against the other guy. That I have a problem with, And I also feel like voting is a bit of a pacifier. It pacifies the people, and it allows good cop, bad cop to happen. And as a result, the people just get screwed. And I just don't like that. And I really am a anarchist at heart. I really would like to see the system like upended. Like, we need like dramatic change. We need huge dramatic change. And I don't know that going to the polls is really the avenue for that. Now, what is the answer? I don't know. But being aware of what's happening in the world is what we need to do to get where we want to go. You know what I mean? So that we can make decisions to move forward in the world. So that's why I do this on this show. I try to, inform people and get them aware of what's happening so that they can make informed decisions. A lot of the stuff we see in the news is just freaking opinion talking heads, and they're partisan, and it's, all one side or the other, and you don't get any, they think we're stupid. That's the main thing. They think you're dumb. They think you can't think for yourself or come to conclusions on your own. So they just tell you what to think. And it's a little bit more difficult to be able to think things through and come up with your own opinions. But I think people are smart. I really do. And I think that if you give people the actual real information, they'll make better decisions about their life. So that's what I try to do here anyways. So push against the media, and it doesn't pay me. I don't make any money doing this show, and I don't get any benefits. Also, I don't get a lot of views for trying to get people to think, So I do this out of love, and I'm really trying to help. I really try to make a difference. I'm really trying to change things and make things better. And the internet is all fart jokes and fluff and lies, deceit, confusion, clickbait, everything, and it works, and they make money doing it. Like, grifting is the most fucking profitable thing to do nowadays. All you have to do is tell people what they want to hear. You already know what they want to hear. You already know once you pick a side, you already know what the politics are, and which side you should be on every issue. And you give them that, and you give them a little bit of information to make them feel smart for choosing the side that they choose. And you grift them, and they'll give you lots and lots of money to make them feel smart, and it's really, really sad that this is the state of our politics and the state of the internet and the state of the world. Grifters get paid, and in the music and the art is a lot of trash. There's the creativity is like gone. The economics is what drives everything, is profit over people, and they don't really create stuff that's original or moving or thought-provoking or whatever. They don't do anything dangerous or on the edge. It is what it is, man. This is where we are. Anyways, peace and love, y'all. Where do we begin is always the question. Let's start off with some headlines. Let's do that. And we'll warm up, and then we'll get into it. So let's look at this. We got AP, Associated Press. Top story is Trump returns to Iowa 10 days before the caucuses with the commanding lead of the Republican field. Former President Donald Trump is calling on his supporters to not be complacent in the face of commanding polling lead as he kicks off the sprint to the Iowa caucus with his first events of the election year. Man, I'm telling y'all, my prediction is Trump's going to win this. I think the only way that they're going to keep from Trump winning is to literally put him in jail. And I'm not necessarily a Trump supporter. I follow politics, and the cards, the candles, the tea reads Trump winning for this cycle. And I don't know, the Democrats would have to put somebody up there other than Biden. And I don't know who that could be. I really don't. And the third parties don't really have a chance. So that leaves Trump, like it or love it. You know, I think that regardless of what happens, we're all screwed. We got a powder keg here in the States, and it's just waiting for a spark. We're leading into a bigger war. That might be why they're doing it too. You know, it's election year, so crazy things happen, and there's a lot of distractions that always happen. But the Middle East situation is getting worse, and it's spreading. And the U.S. don't really have a choice but to get more involved in it. And it's going to lead, like I say, if you're active military person, or even if you're reservist or something, man, get your boots ready. Get your boots ready. That's my prediction, because they're going to be calling on you the way things are going. Let's see. Related news, it says the Supreme Court will decide if Donald Trump can be kept off the 2024 presidential election. Let's look at this story, because this one can have a great impact on what happens. You know, if they do keep Trump off of the ballot, it's going to be a lot of upset people, and the results are not going to be pretty. So I think it would be best that they go ahead and let him be on the ballot in all of 50 states, because if not, the people are going to freaking, yeah, if you think January 6th was bad, is there sound to this? Let's look at the, oh, is that the sound in this? Let's read a bit of this by Mark Sherman and Nicholas Riccardi, January 5th, 2024. It says the Supreme Court said Friday will decide whether former President Donald Trump can be kept off the ballot because of his efforts to overturn 2020 election loss, inserting the court squarely in the 2024 presidential campaign. That's crazy, because now it's like the Supreme Court should be apolitical or whatever. The Supreme Court shouldn't be involved in politics like directly, I would say. But this situation right here is putting the Supreme Court squarely within the political arena. Like, their decisions can influence the election. And I don't know if that's a good situation for things to be in, because no matter how they choose, people on one side or the other is not going to be happy. It says the justices acknowledge the need to reach a decision quickly, as voters will soon begin casting presidential primary ballots across the country. The court agreed to take up Trump's appeal of a case from Colorado stemming from his role in the events culminated in January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Underscoring the urgency, arguments will be held on February 8th during what is normally a nearly month-long winter break for the justices. The compressed time frame could allow the court to produce a decision before Super Tuesday on March 5th, when the largest number of delegates are up for grabs in a single day, including Colorado. So that's still a long ass time, and that's still pressing it big time. So it says maybe before March 5th. Ooh. So, but then they came when they were supposed to be on break to do this. So they're going to start having arguments, it says, by February 8th. Man, our system moves so damn slow, so we won't get an answer till March. Ugh. Yeah, and the election going to be in full swing by then. And like, if they was to say he could be off the thing, that would throw a whole curveball in the whole thing. That's scary, scary, scary. It says Trump, speaking at a campaign event in Iowa, said, "All I want is fair. I just hope that they're going to be fair." The court will be considering for the first time the meaning and reach of a provision of the 14th Amendment, barring some people who engage in insurrection from holding public office. The amendment was adopted in 1868 following the Civil War. It has been so rarely used that the nation's highest court has no previous occasion to interpret it. Colorado Supreme Court, by a 4-3 vote, ruled last month that Trump should not be on the Republican primary ballot. The decision was the first time the 14th Amendment has been used to bar a president contender from the ballot. So there's no precedence for this situation. It says Trump is separately appealing to the court and ruling by Maine's Democratic Secretary of State, Shannon Bellows, that he was ineligible to appear on the state's ballot over his role in the Capitol attack. Both Colorado Supreme Court and the Maine Secretary of State rulings are on hold until appeals play out. Yeah, so Colorado, Maine, I think it's two other states that have decided to take him off the ballot now. So it's going to be 4 states if they don't push back on this, and that's enough. That is enough to keep him from being president, literally, like whatever happens in the rest of the states. And people are going to say that that's not politics. That's not democratic, democracy's thrown out the window when, what the people want, who the people they want to vote for is not even on the ballot. And then people are like, they're going to do protest votes and just write them in anyways. Those votes are not going to be counted, bro. They're going to throw them out the window, throw them out. They're not going to count those votes. So your vote is not going to count if you do a protest vote, just putting his name on there. But I don't think that they're going to be able to. Let's read some more, but I really just don't think. I think that especially with the makeup of the Supreme Court right now, like how many of them was appointed by Trump? He got enough in there that he put in himself. Let's read some more. It says the High Court's decision to intervene, which both sides calls for, is the most direct involvement in a presidential election since Bush versus Gore in 2000, when a conservative majority effectively decided the election for Republican George W. Bush. Only Justice Clarence Thomas remains from that court. I remember that election, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm not a Gore fan, but he got screwed. He got royally screwed out of that. That was a mess. If you guys were around during that time and y'all saw how that happened, it came down to Florida, and then Florida was really close, so they had to keep doing recounts, and it was just shady stuff going on. And so Bush sued and said, stop the recounts, and the Supreme Court, they upheld that and was like, stop the recounts. And it just made George W. Bush the president. And he wasn't a very popular president at the time, like at all. And then 9/11 happened, and he became very, very popular. But before 9/11, a lot of people did not like George W. It says 3 of the 9 Supreme Court justices were appointed by Trump. That's what I just said. 3 of the 9, bro. That's talk about stack the deck right there. 3 of the 9 court justices were appointed by Trump, though they have repeatedly ruled against him in 2020 election-related lawsuits, as well as his efforts to keep documents related to January 6 and his tax returns from being turned over to congressional committees. At the same time, Justices Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh have been in a majority of conservative-driven decisions that overturned the 5-decade-old constitutional right to abortion, expanded gun rights, and struck down affirmative action in college admissions. I don't know if you guys understand how big these rulings were. Expanding gun rights, maybe not so much, but affirmative action has been in effect since freaking, how Clarence Thomas even got in the Supreme Court. Well, not necessarily in the Supreme Court, but that's how he got into college. I want to say he was a Harvard graduate, and that's how he got in there was affirmative action. So that's how long that's been in. And then rights for abortion has been in there for a long time too. So these overturned deals, these are big changes that that Supreme Court made um, within our, recently. It's a big deal, big, huge deal. And the repercussions of both of those is going down. Like as far as related to affirmative action, you have the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff that has come down. That's as a result of the affirmative action things. So schools don't have to deal with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Jobs don't have to deal with diversity, equity, and inclusion. A lot of that stuff is thrown out now because it was the law who those companies and corporations and schools had to deal with, but now they don't. So it is a deal. It's a big deal, and a lot of people have issues with the legacy students. And I think that what's going to happen, they're going to have to deal with that legacy students thing related to affirmative action, because you could say that that is very similar to affirmative action, but they still do the legacy students thing. So they're going to have to make a decision on that too. Let's read some more. Some Democratic lawmakers have called on Thomas to step aside from the case because his wife's support for Trump's effort to overturn the results of the election, which he lost to Democrat Joe Biden. Thomas is unlikely to agree, and there was every indication Friday that all the justices are participating. Thomas has recused himself from only one other case related to the 2020 election involving former law clerk John Eastman, and so far the people trying to disqualify Trump haven't asked him to recuse. Yeah, I mean, as far as him recusing himself, I mean, I don't know. He's pretty close to the situation with his wife, but you can argue that that's his wife's point of view, and it's not necessarily his. But at the same time, as intricate as his wife was in that situation, it doesn't look good. So it's a bad look. It says the 4-3 Colorado decision cites a ruling by Gorsuch when he was federal judge in that state. That Gorsuch's decision upheld Colorado's move to strike a naturalization citizen from the state's presidential ballot because he was born in Guyana and didn't meet the constitutional requirements to run for office. The court found that Trump likewise doesn't meet qualifications due to his roles in the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. That day, the Republican president had held a rally outside the White House and exhorted his supporters to fight like hell before they walked to the Capitol. I don't know if you can compare, being a naturalized citizen to the stuff related to Trump. Like, of course, if you was born in Guyana, the Constitution is not going to allow you to become the president. I don't know if you can put those in the same boat. It says the two-sentence provision in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment states that anyone who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and then engaged in an insurrection against it is no longer eligible for state or federal office. After Congress passed an amnesty for most of the former Confederates, the measure targeted in 1972, the provision fell into disuse until dozens of suits were filed to keep Trump off the ballot this year. Only one in Colorado was successful. Yeah, so the argument would be, did he engage in an insurrection? I think some people would say no. And I think that that's what the Supreme Court is going to say. They're going to say he didn't directly engage in an insurrection, because that's going to be difficult to prove, that he engaged in an insurrection. Like that phrase, engaged in an insurrection. Maybe you can argue that he incited it, but actually engaged in it, that's going to be a tough one to prove. What do y'all think? Where you guys at? Need some. Where's Doc, Pat? Where y'all at? Where my dogs at? Roo, roo, roo. It says they argue that Trump should win on many grounds, including that the events of January 6th did not constitute an insurrection. That's what I just said. Even if he did, they wrote, Trump himself had not engaged in insurrection. Exactly. They also contend that the insurrection clause does not apply to the president and the Congress must act, not individual states. I don't know about that. It says the insurrection clause does not apply to the president and and that Congress must act, not individual states. I can get the part where it says Congress must act, but you have to think about states' rights. But the other part does not apply to the president. I don't like anything that says does not apply to the president, because then that says that at least one person is above the law legally. How can you be above the law? How can anyone be above the law? And if anyone is above the law, then how is anyone going to respect the law? How are you going to respect the law if there are certain people that it applies to and others that it doesn't? People are going to say, that isn't right. It's like, okay, well, if I just become president, then I can do whatever I want to do, and I don't have to worry about the law holding me accountable. That's a dangerous precedent, I think. It could lead to a future where you have a president who does unlawful acts and he knows that he can't be held accountable because there's a precedent of the Supreme Court saying the law doesn't apply to the president. That leads to freaking Mad Max. That leads to world warlords. That leads to anarchy. Slippery slope. It says critics of the former president who sued in Colorado agreed that the justices should step in now and resolve the issue, as do many election law experts. I'm going to read a little bit more because they're kind of starting to repeat themselves. It says, this case of the utmost national importance, and given the upcoming presidential primary schedule, there is no time to wait for the issue to percolate further. The court should resolve this case in an expedited timetable so that voters in Colorado and elsewhere will know whether Trump is indeed constitutionally eligible when they cast their primary ballots. Lawyers for the Colorado Plains told the Supreme Court. Yeah, man, more song and dance, freaking circus, election year, and this is only the beginning. We're just in January, and this craziness is going to escalate. It's not good for us. We already got a powder keg. We already have, the other nations are looking at us. We're supposed to be leaders in the world when it comes to this democratic thing, and when this kind of thing is going on, the repercussions around the world can be pretty freaking dangerous. And if the people of the United States no longer have faith in their democratic process, they're going to start taking the law into their own hands. And I think a lot of that is already happening. We don't need a bunch of Batmans running around, because Batman may not be a good guy. What he thinks is right may not be right. Couple more. It says Biden warns against Trump re-election after January 6th Capitol riot, a day we nearly lost America. Republicans want to impeach the main official who cut Trump from the ballot. They face long odds. Impeach the main official who cut Trump from the ballot. Perry school shooting creates questions for Republicans in Iowa's presidential caucuses. So that school shooting was in Iowa. How fucking convenient when you got the caucuses about to happen. Let's look at this right quick. one day ago. Was it a middle school? Let's look at this right quick. Another school shooting. Great way to start the new year off.
Units, we've got an active shooter situation at Perry High School.
6:12 this morning, and community members in Perry, Iowa are waking up to the aftermath of yet another school shooting. The small town is located about 40 minutes northwest of Des Moines. It was the first day back from winter break when a student, 17-year-old Dylan Butler, opened fire at the local high school. Police say Butler, seen in this photo posted to social media before the shootings with the caption, "Now we wait," killed one student and hurt 5 others, including the principal, before taking his own life. Police have not confirmed a motive for the shooting. According to the Gun Violence Archive, there have already been 5 mass shootings so far this year.
Man, what a
A new day dawned over Perry this morning, but the trauma of the school shooting that killed a 6th grade student and hurt 7 others continues to loom over this small community. But nevertheless, the community is not defeated. In fact, Perry's strong. We've seen signs around town expressing support for Perry and its people. And tonight, we are learning more about the victims of this tragedy. Just over an hour ago, we learned that middle schooler killed was 11-year-old Amir Jolif. He died after being shot multiple times. The high school principal, Dan Marburger, also suffered multiple gunshot wounds. His family tells us his injuries are critical, but thankfully his condition isn't getting any worse tonight. We'll hear more about him and his recovery later on in this half hour. But first, we go live to Perry, where our Larissa Leone joins us. We're just learning how the school district plans to move forward from this incident. Lots of new information coming. And Larissa, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Stephanie, I'm live here.
What a weak ass thing to do, you know, such a weak thing to do. And like I say, I don't think they should be showing these people's pictures and saying their name. Stop doing that, media, please. Don't say these people's name. Don't show their pictures. They want to be famous, you know, even after death. And that is a motivating factor in this stuff. And the other part is mental health. Okay. And we, you know, one side says guns and the other side says mental health, but then they don't freaking back up their words. Neither side back up their words. But when you're talking about mental health, then put your money where your mouth is. If you feel like mental health is a thing, they have a bill. Did it pass? I think it passed, but only one Republican supported it. It was about increasing funds for mental health in schools, and only one Republican supported it. Let me see if I can find this right quick, y'all. But then how can you, with one, you know, on one hand say, you know, it's not the guns, it's the people, and we need to focus on mental health. But then when a bill crosses your desks that says, let's increase funding for mental health in public schools, you vote against it. Where are you really on that topic? Like, where do you stand? What justifies your vote against it? And I really wish we could get people on the record explaining what is the justification for not supporting money in the schools for mental health. I'm trying to find it and I don't see it, y'all. Give me a second. Don't see it. Maybe I'll do a quick search. Maybe it'll be faster. Because I got a list of things here that I'm going to cover. And that's one of them. I already knew I was going to cover it. I don't see it. Oh, bear with me for a second. I do all this stuff live and on the fly. It's only so much preparation you can do. I need an assistant. I don't have one. When Doc's here, he's my assistant. So, Doc, where you at, Doc? If you're listening, send me the damn link. Maybe we'll come back to it because I don't want to waste much time on one thing. That's the reason why I do the show the way I do it, and then I just let things pop up as I go through. Damn it. I don't see it. It's irritating me. Let me see if I could do a quick search on this. What is it? Let's see. Bill. Wait, hold on. Bill for mental health. Oh, bill for mental health. Senate bill for mental health. Oh shit, I'm under search now. I want to be on YouTube. So Senate Bill 3388, 118th Congress. Hold on, I want YouTube though, so I'd rather have a video. Senate Bill for mental health. Cat Williams done lit the internet up, man. I don't know if I'm going to cover that. The Senate of the Philippines passed the third. That's not what I'm looking for. Address mental health crisis in the USA 2 months ago. That's not it. Connecticut students. Massachusetts. Damn it. Where is it? 4 years ago. Bill for mental health in schools. I'm wasting too much time if it doesn't pop up. 11 months ago. Nope, I don't see it. Let's move on. We're going to come back to it. I don't want to waste any more time. I don't want to read so much right now. Let's go to Insta. I feel like I'm losing y'all. So let's move on. Keep this moving. Let's just do some random stuff right quick. I didn't share this. Like, this isn't a story I wanted to cover. I actually skipped over this purposely. But anyways, it says accused aggravated kidnapping, locked up a pregnant woman for years. It's like he had her in his garage, they said. It says HBD arrests local rapper. He's a rapper? How the hell? Look like he's about 60 years old. HBD arrests local rapper accused of holding pregnant woman hostage for several years. How do you do that? How do you pull that off? Like, you got somebody in your garage. Must have had her chained down or something. Where does she use the restroom at? She got poopy and pee-pee garage. I don't know. People who have restrooms in their garage. Maybe, I guess he had a restroom in the garage. First comment, it says, if they didn't make an album, don't call them a rapper, LOL. I see y'all keep doing this. What agenda are you pushing? If I ever got caught up in something, knocks on wood, please label me as a civil engineer, because I actually had to mix a little bit of concrete in my garage once upon a time. I'm telling you, maybe it is some kind of agenda, like he's a rapper and he kept some lady hostage. Like, we never heard of him, so he's not a rapper. Eight to 10 feet creature spotted in Miami. What?
caused a panic among shoppers. The problem that most people are having with this report is the sheer number of police vehicles involved, around 100, that surrounded the mall just for a small group of teenagers, 4 total, that had fireworks and sticks. Then eyewitness reports began surfacing of 8 to 10-foot creatures which were entering the mall, which really caused the mass panic from shoppers to the point many who were armed began to fire upon the large creatures. This caused the power to be cut from the mall and surrounding homes, and black helicopters sent into the air to scan the area, shutting down the Miami airport until the search was finished. Some have described these creatures as zombies to reptilians, to even Nephilim in nature as they entered the marketplace. What are these creatures? Are they a sign of the last days of Noah, or is it a government experiment gone AWOL? Or cryptids journeying from a secluded area nearby? You tell me. On January 2nd, 2024, a large police presence was spotted at the Bayside Marketplace, an outdoor mall in Miami, Florida. The police report stated that it was an incident involving teenagers with sticks and fireworks that caused a panic among shoppers. The problem that most people are having with this report is the sheer number of police vehicles involved, around 100, that surrounded the mall just for a small group of teenagers.
Yeah, I saw a report about a large number of police officers, and they were like, what the hell is going on? But damn, whenever they use that generated AI voice, the one that they use in this, automatically I'm not like giving it any credence. Like, what the hell ever, bro? Like, people love to, like, I don't know. It's a form of entertainment now, the internet, you know. This kind of stuff entertains people, and they're like, you know, I don't know, they're bored. No, I believe that about as much as I believe. Yeah, no. I don't believe it. You know, I always feel like 90% of the stuff on the internet is fake. So automatically the default is it's not true for me. I mean, like, I need a little bit more than a freaking 15-second clip for me to believe something like that. You know, what's crazy about stuff like that is that, like, you know, if there are any kind of like Bigfoots or anything like that, like, why haven't we seen them already? Like, it's people, so many humans on the planet everywhere, and there's so many phones and cameras and stuff. Like, I don't see how anything, unless it's at the bottom of the ocean, that we don't have any evidence of it existing or whatever. Like, any kind of undiscovered creatures. If they're undiscovered creatures, they got to be microscopic or very small or at the bottom of the ocean or something. Like, other than that, there's no way. Joyanne Reed. In 1984, I lowered the top income tax rate from 70% to 28%. Then I imposed the first ever income tax on Social Security benefits to make up for it. Reaganomics, and we're still living in that. And we see how the trickle-down economics worked out. We're living in the results of that. I don't believe it. Yeah, man, I don't really want to cover it, but freaking Cat Williams lit the internet on fire. January is going to be remembered for Cat Williams. Yeah, the Epstein list. We're going to have to cover that. We're going to have to do some coverage into that. I think people can't go too hard on that whole thing because a lot of the information was already out. You know, there was redacted names, and you know they uncovered those names. But just because those names were in there, it was a court proceedings, and not all of the names that are on there are names of people that were involved in some kind of like sex trafficking or whatever. Their names could have came up for other reasons. So people don't just jump on the bandwagon of a name was in the court documents and they're automatically a sex trafficker or whatever. And that's just not the case. Read a little bit more into it and see what it is. Now, in the court documents, it does state some people who like either visited the island a lot or were actually involved in some shady stuff. So, but not all of those names that came on that list were saying that they were actually doing anything nefarious. Okay, so understand that, and also understand that, you know, it was like famous people, you know, being in the same crowds with each other, and that doesn't necessarily mean that those people were doing nefarious things. Now, on the other hand, if you visited the damn Epstein Island like 20 plus times or something, I'd have to wonder what the hell you were going there for. You know, what were you doing there? Why did you like the island so much? You know, why were you flying on the plane with Epstein so much? You know, that has to be a thing, you know, but most of it is like distractions and just something for people to talk about. And none of these people are going to be held accountable as far as I can see. All the time has gone by already. And, you know, whatever happened to Epstein's black book, like there's a lot of evidence that's actually real evidence. And I think it's a reason why we haven't seen that stuff. The court document stuffs, these were before the nitty gritty stuff ever happened. And maybe that's the reason why Epstein had to die, because Epstein pleaded not guilty. So there was going to be a court case. And if that court case would have happened, then a lot of stuff would have had to go down on the record, and a lot of people would have been implicated in that. And I think that's the reason why Epstein had to go. I'm going to come back to that because that's going to be a reoccurring topic. Let's read this. It says 8.5 trillion in untaxed assets. Data shows why we need a billionaire income tax. It says while most Americans predominantly live off the income they earn from a job, income that is taxed all year, every year, the very richest households live lavishly off capital gains that may never be taxed. That's what I say, may never be taxed. They can get them when they pass it on with inheritance. So one of the ways that they don't get taxes, because it's like they never spend the money, because that's when they get taxes, when they have to move the money from an account or whatever. So they just leave it in there and they just live off of the interest, the gains and stuff. And the money stays put, so then they don't get taxed. So that's one of the ways. But, you know, the inheritance is the last moment that you can tax that money. And it's been a huge push to get rid of that particular tax. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get rid of that one. And then if they do, then they, you know, these people will find a way along with all of the other loopholes that are available, they will effectively be able to never be taxed on these huge amounts of money. And it's not fair. The rest of us freaking working hard, trying to make ends meet and living check to check, and we have to pay taxes on our money, and we don't have access. You're like, oh, you can use the same loopholes as them. No, I can't, bro. I can't buy a Rembrandt. I can't, donate thousands of dollars to charity. Like, I don't have the income to do those, to use those tax loops. I can't put money in the Swiss bank accounts. I can't have a business that is a shell business and doesn't really exist and pretend that I'm the CEO and I'm paying myself. I don't have the money to use those tax loops, basically. And a lot of us are in that boat. I would say majority of Americans. So the rest of us just have to pay the taxes. And these people who have large sums of money can take advantage of these loopholes. And the rest of us simply cannot. It's not there for us. And people make the argument that you can do the same thing, and it's not true. Stop lying to yourself, because if it was true, then you would be doing it right now. It says an analysis released Wednesday shows that in 2022, the wealthiest people in the United States collectively held a staggering 8.5 trillion in wealth that is not and might never be subject to taxation. Examining recently released data, Federal Reserve data for 2022, Americans for Tax Fairness found that the roughly 64,000 U.S. households with at least 100 million in wealth, less than 0.05% of the population, controlled more than $1 in every $6 of the country's unrealized gains, profits that aren't taxable until the underlying assets, such as stock positions, is sold. But the ultra wealthy don't need to sell to benefit. They can live off of low-cost loans secured against their growing fortunes, and once inherited, such gains disappear completely for tax purposes. ATF Zachary Tashman and William Rice explained in new analysis, while most Americans predominantly live off the income they earn from a job, income that is taxed all year, every year, the very richest households live lavishly off capital gains that may never be taxed. So yeah, what they do is they secure loans based on the wealth that they have sitting in their bank account, and then they live off of those loans, and then they pay those loans back, and then rents repeat. And a lot of times what they do is they make it look like they don't make any money. So on paper, it's like they haven't made any money. They haven't made any income. They haven't. So then therefore they can't be taxed. It says that small ultra rich fraction of the US society is sitting on more unrealized capital gains than the bottom 84% of the country, roughly 110 million households combined, Tashman and Rice noted. Most of the typical U.S. households' unrealized capital gains are in the form of their homes, which face state and local property taxes. But 93% of unrealized gains of America's wealthiest are tied up in businesses, stock portfolios, and mutual funds, ATF found. As a result, mega-rich individuals such as Tesla CEO Elon Musk, the wealthiest man on the planet, wind up paying little to nothing in federal income tax. It's because they didn't make any income technically. Between 2013 and 2018, leading U.S. billionaires paid an average of federal tax of just 4.8%, according to a previous ATF analysis. This is why we need billionaire income tax, the group wrote on social media Wednesday, pointing to legislative proposals reintroduced late last year in both chambers of Congress. And you guys are like, oh, they do charities or whatever, or because they have this money, they can create jobs and all of this bullshit, bro. Like, I wish people would get off of that fucking train. And it's like, we all have to pay taxes, man. We all have to do it. It is what it is, but that's what keeps society going, what did it say? Anyways, let's read some comments. It says, I don't care what happens to billionaires. To me, they're just dangerous animals. It's like we have to rely on the charity of these really rich people. What if they decide to not be charitable? And it's like Elon Musk is going to save the world. I don't believe it. And why should we leave it to one person's discretion on all the rest of us? It's like, and then you're like, well, you could just be like Elon Musk. It's like, dude, this dude, a lot of these people, y'all worship them and you're like, oh, they're self-made billionaires or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, that shit is a lie. These people were born into circumstances that benefited them, not being jealous or envious of them, but just face the reality that these people weren't self-made. It's, this guy, he's a robber baron, he uses his wealth, he leverages his wealth, he's not any more creative than others, it's just not true. Dude, his dad was freaking emerald mine owner in apartheid South Africa. You know, we be talking about what's his name from Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and it's like when he started Amazon, like this dude got money from his mom, I want to say, and the business wasn't profitable for years, and he was getting money just poured into his business to keep it afloat. You know, I mean, Amazon did do some really innovative stuff, but Amazon would have went out of business if it wasn't for all the money funneled into the business. You know, and if you or me opened a business, you know, most businesses fail within the first couple of years because they run out of freaking money, even if it's a good idea. But if you got rich friends and rich family members or whatever to keep pouring money into your business, then boom, that's it. So it's not that these people are so freaking like better than the rest of us. They just have more access to resources. Comments, it says nothing will ever be done about that. Never. It says they're made of meat and everything they own is flammable. What the hell does that mean? I don't know. That kind of gave me a little chill. That was kind of scary. This one, it says, in case you missed it, hold on, let me check something, y'all, because I'm feeling kind of weird. Y'all hear me? They're made of meat. And am I broadcasting on Rumble? Let me check, y'all. I should have checked all this at the beginning. Okay. We're live on Rumble. Let me leave a comment because it's weird. I'm just feeling weird right now. Looks like everything is good. Let's read this. It says, in case you missed it, the NYPD spent $150 million extra last year to catch people who weren't able to afford to pay the subway fare. They owed just $104,000. $150 million could buy free fares at going rate for 95,000 poor New Yorkers per year. So they'd rather spend $150 million to persecute people who are jumping over the turnstiles to catch the train. Extra, $150 million extra. You know, it's like, and I'm not trying to say give people a free ride or whatever, you know, pay your fare or whatever. It's just, it kind of just shows priorities of what's important. Like, what's important is that people pay when they ride the train. Like, that's really important. The people next to you paid, so you have to pay too. So we'll spend extra $150 million to make sure that more people pay when they. And then I wonder how much did they actually get out of that? Like, I'm willing to bet that that came as a loss. Like, how much money did NY get in fares? Improvement in fares, like how many more people paid as a result of them spending that $150 million. I'm willing to bet they took a loss on that. That's why it's not about the money. It's really more about control. It's really just more about control. That's what they care more about. They care more about control of people than even making money. And you be thinking that it's all about greed, but the more I look at things, I realize that control is way more important to the powers that be than the money. The money is just a tool that they use. You know, a lot of them don't even really care about money. It's the power that matters. You know, comments, it says, sorry, we can't give you free subway fare. We have to pay the police 10 times more to catch you when you can't afford it. Misuse of taxpayers' money, shaking my head. It says Eric Adams will cut off his own leg before ever spending money on anything that isn't for the NYPD. I never liked this guy. I followed his election, and he was like, parents, what did he say? Like, parents, y'all need to watch your kids more. They're doing drugs and stuff. So go in their room and look at their stuff and see if they're hiding guns and weapons and stuff. And like, that's how he got elected or whatever. And spending money on the police is his whole thing. Like, you know, I never liked that guy. And now he's crying about freaking all of the immigrants coming to his city, you know, getting bused and flown there from states like Texas and Louisiana. And he's a big ass crybaby. And now he's suing the bus companies because he can't go at Texas directly. He's suing the bus companies for this large amount of money to try to cover the amount that he spent on the immigrants or whatever. It's just politics. They're using these people as political pawns so they can get votes and shit. I hate it. It's disgusting. It says, yeah, Bart spent $90 million designing Fairgate to prevent evasion. I honestly cannot think of a worse way to spend that money. $90 million would have paid for fares for years for low-income people. Public transportation should be free. Yeah, it was a big waste of money. I saw it, how they made the things higher to make it harder for people to jump over it. But these are New Yorkers, bro. Like, they're a different breed of people. And the ones that aren't going to pay, they're not going to pay. And they're going to get over that shit. They're going to move. Those systems aren't going to work. It was a waste of money. Like, they'd rather spend money on trying to prevent people to get on the train than spend money on helping people. They'd rather spend money on immigrants than spend money on the people that live in New York. They were like, he was crying about, oh, we got to house these people and we got to educate these people and we got to feed these people and all of that. And I'm like, that's crazy, because I know New Yorkers who are hungry and need some place to live and, you know, need schooling and education. These are native New Yorkers. How come you can't feed and house them, but you're going to feed and house these immigrants? Like, no knocking on immigrants or whatever. I'm just saying, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. I guess you got to be an immigrant to get some help in New York. It says the biggest gang in New York: defund, disarm, disband. It says, where I live, they've stopped charging for the bus because the process of collecting money was costing more than they could charge for fares. They use a grant program to do that, but still makes you think. They'd rather spend more money on forcing people to pay, you know, than to let a few people get by and they don't spend the money and then they actually be profitable. Another comment says it should be free. I mean, all the damn taxes that they pay, you know, it would be nice. I mean, and then if you need a certain amount of money to keep the system going, you got to pay drivers, you got to pay for construction and maintenance and cleaning and stuff like that. That's fair, you know, but keep the fare at the amount that it costs to run the thing. And then nobody's going to argue with that. Another comment says, the point of the system is to ensure the workers can't afford to live and are in constant debt. They bribe the government to ensure it by any means at any cost. And I think that's what it is. Like I say, the reason why we have homeless is a message to the rest of us to keep your head down. You know, it's all about control. So if you're spending all your money on bills, then you can't fight against the system. You can't do a revolution. You can't be too concerned with politics and try to make a difference for your community. You're just on your treadmill trying to get to next month. And I think that's the whole point. They want to exhaust all your resources to keep you from being able to do anything, even be creative, or, you know, to expand your mind, or to learn stuff and better your situation. They need workers, and that's what they want. They just want workers and they keep you under their thumb to keep you from growing. You know, they don't want competition. Like they say, we got a free market, but we don't. We don't really have competition. They don't want people growing and creating business and actually being competition. So they keep you to the point where you can't invest in anything. You can't try to get outside of your job and create your own income. They need workers. If everybody was growing and opening their own businesses, then they wouldn't have no workers. Be looking for immigrants. Another comment says, I mean, keeping law enforcement and everything related to imprisonment is a jobs program. Imagine what all these people would be doing if world peace broke out tomorrow. They'd replace the criminals, LOL. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Everything related to imprisonment is a jobs program. Man. God, we have more people locked up in the United States than they have in countries, like whole countries. We got a whole country of people locked up here. And it's a whole money train related to the lawyers, the bail bondsmen, the prison owners, the people who work in the prisons. You know, it's an industry, you know, so they create criminals. Some dude who's jumping the turnstile to catch the train is not a real criminal. It's a person that's poor and trying to get to work or something. It's not a criminal. Another comment says, learn from libraries, give it away. Also ACAB, so shut that down. Another one, it says, it's always about penalizing, demonizing the poor. You know, being poor is criminal here in the States. It says, I saw something the other day, like Bart spent a cool $8 million, if I'm remembering correctly, on a floor to ceiling plexiglass fare evasion security system. It is definitely foreseeable and probably inevitable that it will get stuck at least occasionally and create horrific bottlenecks. It probably can injure people too. Just made public transportation free. I am boiling at the way these traitors have all the money in the world for violence and repression, but never have any money for anything that could actually benefit society. Where y'all at, y'all? Where my dogs at? Row. Check this one out. It says U.S. employers added 216,000 jobs in December, the latest sign of continued economic growth. It says hiring in December far surpassed economists' expectations and rebuked concerns of recession in the coming months, according to data released by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics on Friday. The economy added 216,000 jobs last month, while the unemployment rate held steady at 3.7%, a historically low figure, the data showed. Yeah, you know, a lot of this is misleading. First off, I'll say there are 216,000 jobs. What jobs were those? Okay. And how many of those are jobs that people have multiple of them to be able to pay their bills, meaning that that person works 3 jobs to pay their bills. And in the picture, it shows a guy doing some construction on a roof or whatever. Like, and that's good work for some people, but who all wants to do this? Like, he's strapped on or whatever. It looks dangerous. You know, I don't really want to risk my life daily to make money to pay the bills. Like, the first day I slip, it's rainy or something, and I get hurt. Now I can't work. That's not for me. That rate held steady, 3.7, of historically low figure. You know, that those numbers are probably not right. Because how did they come up with that unemployment figure? You know, how does that data? How do they collect that data? And I'm sure it's hugely skewed. I'm sure it's much larger than that. You know, I forget, I was reading somewhere about that and how it was so many people that aren't counted on this because it's a certain way that they do that. to determine who's unemployed or whatever. And so it's a lot more unemployed people than that number says. And then, we have to remember that we came out of the pandemic not that long ago, and a lot of people fell out of work, and a lot of people have come back afterwards or whatever. And I also think that we're in a political year, and they have this word they've been saying, Biden economics, over and over again, and banging it into our head to make it look like for some reason Biden has, like, I don't know, done some great policy decisions that has led to a great economy. But I don't know where the hell they're getting that shit from. Like, that's only on paper, because everybody I know, just about everybody I know, have been suffering economically and are living check to check. Maybe they have a job, but they are broke. They don't have no spendable cash, no liquid cash. They are struggling, and that's the reason why people are pushing back against the system. They're not happy. They're hurting really bad. So when you do this, it's like gaslighting us, and it's a slap in the face is what it is. Like, y'all can throw these numbers around all you want, but us in our real life is looking around and saying, this shit kind of sucks. First comment, it says, what BS? We're still at an all-time low, yet we are paying for illegals to be fed, housed, and financial assistance over Americans. I don't really know how that relates to the topic, but I get your frustration. Another comment says, BS, that's how I feel. Perfect comment. Another one that says, that's weird that this always happens right before election time. That's kind of what I was saying, election year. Another one that says, Republicans hate jobs. What? What the freak? Another one that says, hell yeah, let's go, Brandon. How does that relate? Another comment that says, where are these jobs? Exactly. Freaking Indeed, LinkedIn, I was on there making my thing look really pretty, and I've been applying for jobs, and I haven't been getting very, man, I got like one. I had one interview. Bro, where the hell are these jobs? Who are hiring? Like, the fuck, man? It says business is booming, busy as ever. I've ever been at work. 401k up 20%. Keep it rolling. What industry are you in, buddy? Let's read some replies. It says, like strangers telling me about my 401k portfolio. Take those kids to the park, champ. Says, from California, where the worst governor is. Another one says, mine is. I wonder what industry this guy is in. He says, oh yeah, right, up 20%. Prove it. I'm telling you. Another one says, I have nothing to prove to strangers on the internet. It says 401k is up 20%. It says, like strangers telling me about my 401. I don't know, man. Some of these people may be just straight up lying. Might be a bot. Biden supporter or something. I don't know. Let me stop. Couple more comments that says, and yet some continue to blather about bad economy. The economy rebound following the pandemic has been miraculous. I don't know about that, y'all. Where y'all getting this from? I don't know. I don't see it. It's another comment that says, the latest sign that people can't survive working one job. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. These 216,000 jobs probably held by, 90,000 people, because 90,000 people got 3 jobs. They got two more jobs in December because they had to. They don't sleep. They sleep like 2-3 hours a night. They get off of work at one job and go to the next one. Don't never see their kids. Nights, weekends, holidays, guess where they at? Work. Another comment says, by next November, Dow will be over 38K. Unemployment will be under 4%. Home mortgage rates will be at about 5%, and inflation will be 3%. And people will still be crying about Hunter's laptop. Whatever, bro. It says, yeah, because a lot of people are working 2 jobs. That's what I'm saying. Bionomics at work, MA. I think they were trying to say Biden economics. That one says, but Hunter Biden's laptop. Another one says, 3 years ago, a masked person planted a pipe bomb at the DNC and RNC. The FBI knows his license plate number, despite the fact the feds located and arrested nonviolent trespassers with geolocation and cell data. They still have not located this person. Yeah, I don't know how that relates to the topic.
Pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. You know, Trump and his MAGA supporters not only embrace political violence, but they laugh about it. At his rally, he jokes about an intruder, whipped up by the big Trump lie, taking a hammer to Paul Pelosi's skull, and echoing the very same words used on January 6th. Where's Nancy? And he thinks that's funny. He laughed about it. What a sick... My God. I think it's despicable, seriously. Not just for a president, for any person to say that. But to say it to the whole world listening. When I was overseas, anyway. You can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. You know, Trump and his MAGA supporters not only embrace political violence, but they laugh about it. At his rally, he jokes about an intruder, whipped up by the big Trump lie, taking a hammer to Paul Pelosi's skull, and echoing the very same words used on January 6th. Where's Nancy? And he thinks that's funny.
I have to agree with Biden on his comments right here. The way the internet was laughing, and it doesn't really matter about your politics or which side you're on or whatever. Like, it's not funny, man. It's not funny that some guy's old guy getting beaten in the head with a hammer. Like, I don't find any humor in that. Like, I cannot like the guy or his wife or his politics and still at the same time don't want to see him get hit with a hammer. Like I don't, and the internet was making a lot of jokes about it. It was really funny or whatever to these people. And I don't see the humor in that. You know, the guy got all messed up, you know, like who the hell wants to take a hammer to the face? And then some people are laughing that you got, what if it was you got hit in the head with a hammer and then the whole internet is laughing at you about it? Like, how would you feel about that? Like our politics is taking our humanity away. It's taking our freaking common sense. It's taking our logic away. It's taking our freaking integrity away, you know? And I'll try not to let anything take my integrity, my character, my word. I mean, that's my wealth. I saw a quote somebody said, I think it was in a song, and he said, my word is my wealth. And man, that's how I feel. Like, and you know, on the streets, it's like, ain't nothing more valuable than your word. You know, if everybody knows that you keep your word, that you're a stand-up person, that you have integrity, that if you say something, you're going to do it, that's respected. You know what I mean? But it's crazy how in politics, that's not the case. And it's crazy how like in the corporate world, that's not the case. It's like, if you're a salesman, you lie to people to make the sale. And then it's all about those numbers at the end of the month. How many people you lied to and cheated out of and stepped on to get those numbers is all beside the point, you know. But at the end of the day, you go home and you're with your wife and you wonder why your life is miserable. Like you can't even, if you're not truthful in your word at work, then you're not going to be truthful at your word at home. And like you can make lots of money and people appear to respect you as a result of your money, but it's not real. And so like you go home and you make lots of money, but your wife doesn't respect you. Your kids don't respect you. Your family members, your coworkers, they don't respect you. They might look up to your money as far as they envy the position that you're in. Maybe you're the boss, maybe you make more money than them or whatever, but they don't respect you. They don't. Comments. It says, I love him so dang much. I know he's not perfect. I know, but gosh, I still love him. Wow. Go give him a hand job while you're at it. Another one, it says, not a slip, definitely intentional to let us fill in the profanity of our choice, was perfectly done. Another comment, it says, if MAGA is offended by this language, may I, checks receipt, mention, grabbed her by the meow. Another comment says, just say it, Joe. We all know it's true. Another one that says, oh, I thank God every day for President Biden. Vote Biden in November. God, these people. Sit on his lap. Why don't you? Another comment says, now that is how a president speaks. No threats, no warnings, no intimidating. Another one, riding with Biden. How about riding on Biden? Another one that says, let's go Dark Brandon. Is this a twist that I don't know about? Dark Brandon. What does Dark Brandon mean? Dark Brandon. Somebody explain in the comments. I understand let's go Brandon. I don't understand let's go Dark Brandon. So is that supposed to be like the opposite of it? I don't know. Another one says, well, he ain't lying, and Trump says whatever he wants, and his minions cheer like the Nazis they are. Another one, someone who actually sounds like an American president when he speaks. Okay, I've got enough of this. Let's move on. We got cults. We got cults on both sides. Fanatics. They're on both sides. You know, if it's your guy and he says something that you don't agree with, you don't have the balls to say I don't agree with that, because then everybody in your room, everybody in your circle is going to attack you. You know. And if it's the guy on the other side and he says something that you do agree with, you don't have the balls to say, well, that's actually a good thing or whatever, because he's not your guy, he's not on your team or whatever, he's on the opposite side of the aisle, and everybody's going to attack you for it. And I really hate that. I really hate that we've come to this point where it depends on whose mouth certain things come out of, whether you're going to support it or not. Again, where's the character and integrity and truth and honesty? You know, I can't respect you if you agree with something or whatever. It aligns with you, but it's coming from the other side, so you can't admit that you do, or you won't bring yourself to come to the realization of. It says U.S. Supreme Court to consider Trump 14th Amendment ballot disqualification case. I kind of covered this at the beginning. It says, breaking, the U.S. Supreme Court said it would consider the appeal from President Trump's disqualification form, Colorado GOP primary ballot. The court is set oral arguments for Thursday, February 8th. Another comment, it says, I dream of a day when people don't talk about DT anymore. DT. Donald Trump. Oh, okay. Well, I don't see that happening anytime soon. He was famous before he was a president. His name was in rap songs. He was in movies. He had a TV show. He's a famous dude. And now, since he became president, he's a global famous person. Like, this is all beside politics. I'm just talking about fame. Like, people know this guy's name and know his face or whatever. Like, he's over the top famous. He's probably one of the most famous people in the world. So his name's going to be on the tongue of people for a long, long time, regardless of what happens. Another comment says, he stacked the SCOTUS for a reason. It wasn't just to overturn Roe. I think there's some truth to that. But what people have to understand, Trump is only one person, and the powers that be had a lot to do with the makeup of the Supreme Court. And these people were spending money and putting in a lot of effort to make that happen for a long time, even before Trump was on the scene. And Trump is a tool. I think Trump supporters would not like to hear me say that, but he has been a tool for the powers that be. A lot of stuff that they have been trying to get done, Trump got in there and boom, they had their shot. They've been working on it for the longest, and Trump was the tool that allowed them to get this stuff done. So, I mean, face reality on that shit. He has been very useful to certain groups. Another comment says, oh, and Clarence Thomas should recuse himself. Another one that says, now we find out if the Constitution is worth the paper it's written on. One thing you have to understand, though, a lot of this stuff is open for interpretation. And the thing related to this 14th Amendment clause is that there's not much precedence for its use. So if you want to just say, you know, they're throwing it out, you know, like they can choose what parts of the Constitution they want to support or not, that's kind of a fair argument, because I think that's what they do in a lot of cases in reality. But with this particular one, it has to be interpreted, you know, what it means or whatever, how it can be used or whatever. It's not necessarily meaning that they don't support the Constitution. It just needs to be clarified on its use or whatever. And a lot of this stuff is archaic. A lot of people really need to understand the original Constitution. When was it written? Bro, how much has the world changed since then? Like the way people think, the way people move, the way, like, bruh, like we didn't have cars. We didn't have airplanes. Like we didn't have the internet. Like we didn't have AI. We didn't have nuclear weapons. Like the Constitution, it, you know, it's pretty good, but you know, it needs to be updated, if you will. And the way you interpret it is how you kind of update it or whatever. Another comment says, what the F is there to consider? He's guilty. Another one, Democrats are so desperate. Another one that says, not allowing someone to be on the ballot is illegal. How can you just say that? I mean, you know, the Constitution is the Constitution. You can't just say that. Another one that says, I hope the Supreme Court upholds the Constitution and rules in favor of Colorado. Another one, so many people in jail for doing stuff for this guy and he's still free. Some shit is not right. Another one, won't be just Colorado. Many more states are going to want to do this, and they are doing it. So, but then whatever the Supreme Court rules on this Colorado one is what's going to decide on the results for the rest of the states, because they're going to have to follow suit on whatever the Supreme Court decides. Another comment says, another test of the Supreme Court's integrity. Another comment says, please guide them. Please, God, guide them to do the ethical thing. I think the ethical thing is to let them be on the ballot, really, because the results of them not will be really bad for America. Really bad. I think that the only decision that they can make is to allow them to be on the ballot. Because the alternative is extremely scary for the United States. Yeah, check this out. Oh, I can't play it. Of course, they're gonna have the music in there. it's a meme. It says, first time in my life, I'm jealous of the French. It says, protesting against their government, the French farmers are covering government buildings in poop. And this is happening. And you have people that say, there's a right way and a wrong way to protest, which I don't really like how people say that because, a protest, the point of it is to disrupt and to make people uncomfortable and to draw attention to stuff that they normally aren't looking at or whatever. And anytime you're going against the powers that be, it's going to make people uncomfortable. And that's the whole point. Even with that said, I would say this is a very good way to do protests right here. Yeah. Manure and stuff like yeah, this is great. So when you go against the farmers, but they've been busting up the farmers here in the United States for the longest. The small farm is pretty much dead here, pretty much mostly, we still have a lot of small farms, don't get me wrong, but the farms are so important. And if you have, that's what I'd be saying about the market being stronger when you have real competition and you have like a bunch of places that provide the same services, and products or whatever. It makes the economy strong because if one of them falls or something happens, you have a bunch of ones that can jump in there and fill in that gap. But when you have huge as monopolies, these conglomerates, one of them fails or something, then it leaves a gaping hole with no one to fill in. And that's what we have here in the States. Mostly these farms have been consolidated and you have huge farms that are owned by the same people. And then what they farm is a lot of stuff that we can't even eat. It's used for other stuff. And, and then they plant the same crops. So you got acres and acres and acres of the same thing growing. It's bad for the soil. It's bad for the economy. It's not good. It's not sustainable. Let me read comment. It says, well, their government has buildings. The USA so-called government is literally a stack of papers. Everything else is just brainwashing over here. So covering buildings in poop wouldn't do anything even if we did have enough farmers who hadn't been bought out. I'm telling you, we don't even have enough individual small farms to push against this. The corporations, the ones that own the farms here in the United States, are in line with the government. So they would never do it. Another comment says, can someone provide more context on why this is happening? Would love to know more. Yeah, they passed a bill. Let's go ahead and look it up. Let's see if we can find a YouTube video. Let's see, Sky News. Hopefully they explain it good. Let's go to this. It says farmers in Dijon, France have staged a massive demonstration against the regional council. It says up to 80 tractors have driven into the city and gathered outside the regional council to protest delays in the payment of European subsidiaries. Says across France, farmers have continued to protest against agricultural policies and higher taxes. Says further grievances such as the increased cost of diesel, climate policies, and competition from the other imports have made life difficult for them. Says according to Express, those leading the protests are the National Federation of Agriculture Holders Unions, FNSEA, and Young Farmers are Jeunesse Agricultures, headed by Arnaud Rousseau and Arnaud Gaillot, respectively. It says the groups have issued a joint statement to the Minister of Agriculture and Food Sovereignty, Mark Fesneau, asserting that he must clarify and explain the government's plan for the future of agriculture. It says for several weeks, French farmers have been expressing their anger throughout France in the face of normative fiscal inconsistencies, in the face of the absence of a clear and structuring vision of French agriculture. It says protests began back in November when farmers turned road signs upside down. It originally started in the southern Tarn province of France before eventually spreading all over the country. Philip Brady, head of the FNSEA Farmers Union in Tarn, spoke about the reasons behind it. Do we even have a farmers union here in the United States? I don't think so. Not that I know of. It says we're trying to think of a way of denouncing all the contradictory instructions we keep getting. It says where we come from, if someone tells us to do one thing in one day and then the opposite the next, we say we're walking on our heads. That's where the idea came from. And I saw a case where they attacked these Amish farmers, and they, like, the feds came in and came down on these people, and they were selling like truly like organic natural foods, meat and vegetables, and it was like against some kind of freaking, I don't know, Food and Drug Administration or something. They came in hard on those people, and it's like crazy. If you decide to buy this food from them or whatever, you know, that's on you to be like, oh, well, they're not approved by the FDA or whatever, but then you know this or whatever. But it's crazy how, unhealthy the way that, a lot of these farms work. Then you got a smaller farm who's doing everything totally naturally, and then that's the farm that they want to go in on. It's because these corporations got their money, in the politicians' pockets. So they get away with feeding us trash, but the healthy ones giving us completely healthy stuff with no additives and GMOs and all of that crap. And those are the ones that they come down on because they haven't paid the government, Anyways, let's move on. I feel like I'm losing y'all. Am I boring y'all with this? They're going to send Gazans to Africa. What a racist ass thing to do. Like they're not African. Like as far as I guess it's based on the color of their skin. They're not even that brown either. I might come back to that, but I'm so tired of that topic. It says students and educators in Idaho show us what it's like when state fails to fund school repairs. Am I sharing this? Yes. ProPublica posted this. Look at this dilapidated damn basketball court here. I've seen this around a lot. Not this bad. Like, this is extreme. This looks like an abandoned freaking building. It can't be real. I don't know. Maybe it is, but I have seen a lot of these schools. My daughter is in wrestling, and she had a wrestling meet tonight, and she went to Cy-Fair school to do her meet, and she said the gym where they were doing their matches in is the same size as the whole school that she's in. She goes to Westside High School, and she said the gym is the same size as their school. And it's like, what I think about is how unfairly funds are distributed between one school and the next. It's so terrible how that shit is, you know, really, really bad. And I've seen, like I say, different schools where like they're freaking their sports equipment or whatever is old and dilapidated. The courts are run down. You know, the kids are playing on like a tore up asphalt for their playground. Like they don't have no playground equipment. And it's really sad. And then you go to another school and they got like freaking some shit that looks like it's in the Olympics. It says Idaho hasn't done an official assessment of school building conditions in 30 years. The Idaho Statesman and ProPublica tried to fill this gap with the help of people who know the system best. We surveyed all 115 superintendents, toured 39 buildings, and collected accounts from hundreds of students, parents, and teachers. Here's what they told us about the problems that impacted every part of their day. We heard from community members in 108 Idaho's 115 school districts. It says floods, and leaks. 50% of Idaho superintendents we heard from said leaks pose a significant challenge or require major repairs. The leak made us feel like there was yet another way our school is falling apart. Something like this could damage our precious instruments that we most certainly could not replace for a long time due to costs. Laura Roris, music teacher at Idaho City Middle School and Basin School District. 28% of superintendents we heard from said overcrowding or use of portable buildings is a significant challenge. Man, my daughter went to a school. It was a charter school, and they had a large number of those temporary buildings, and they were there for the whole time, like, and they still haven't changed. Like, how can you use temporary buildings for years and years and years? It's like they don't have any intention on having permanent buildings. It says at Hayburn Elementary in the St. Marie School District, a stairwell at the front entrance was turned into the music classroom in the Plummer Worley School District. Photo class held in a former storage room. I guess you got to do what you got to do sometimes, but damn. The children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. The children's laughter. Guess they don't care, huh? Like, screw them kids. Ugh. And accessibility. About half of superintendents said they have concerns about accessibility. He can't ever really just be free to explore because he could trip over the edge. I think there's a lot of learning that kids get when they freely explore their world. My little guy doesn't get that. Marissa Smith, mother of Tug, a Discovery Elementary student in the West Ada School District. The district said it would make improvements to address some of Smith's concerns. That's really weird because there's laws in place. Like any government building has to have accessibility for people who, are in a wheelchair or whatever. What do schools get some kind of pass with it related to that? It says 58% of superintendents we heard from said security poses a significant challenge. 31% said asbestos does, and 26% said fire and emergency preparedness do. At Syringa Middle School in the Caldwell School District, the breaker trips if the heater and the microwave are turned on at the same time. So note on the microwave, it says, please turn off Lloyd's heater first. Thank you. Yeah, that's crazy. That's a fire hazard right there. And that's not a hard fix. Like that wouldn't cost a lot. All you need is another freaking outlet. Ugh. Crumbling buildings. 41% of Idaho superintendents were heard from said structural issues like cracks in the walls or foundation pose a significant challenge or require major repairs. Looks of the school is kind of deteriorating. Just walking in and seeing something that looks like this is almost depressing. Diego Hernandez, 10th grade student at Canyon Springs High School in Caldwell School District. Yeah, so it puts you in a different mood and mind frame. And whenever you have integrity issues like this, I have to worry about mold, parasites, insects, stuff like that. So there's health hazards as well as mental issues related to that. It says the state of our buildings, particularly the outer buildings, is embarrassing. School should be a place of security and a place to be proud of, one West Ada teacher said. Bricks have cracked and pieces have fallen out of Jefferson Middle School and the Caldwell School District. Peeling and paint, water damage, ceiling tiles in Canyon Springs High School and the Caldwell School District. 68% of Idaho superintendents we heard from said heating poses a significant challenge or requires major repairs. 67% said the same for cooling. It's extremely hard to focus on schoolwork while shivering. Kendall Edwards, 9th grade student at Moscow High School in the Moscow School District. 88% of superintendents said funding is preventing them from addressing these facility problems. The first thing I think about with that is it said 88% of superintendents said funding is preventing them from addressing these facility problems. And what I do know about freaking the way the school districts are set up, most of the money goes to these damn people like the superintendents, like these, what do you call them? The ones that are not teachers, the ones that, make decisions and stuff like that. Like they get paid a lot of money. So, but then they're like, okay, we don't have the funding to do all of this, but then they're getting like $200,000 a year for their salary. Like they're just collecting their salary and going home. Like, I mean, I wonder, would these superintendents be willing to take a pay cut so that the schools could fix their problems? It says school districts often can't build or repair buildings because Idaho is one of only 2 states that require 2/3 of voters to approve a bond. And the legislature has been reluctant to make significant investments in facilities. Administrators say that they don't know how they'll keep their schools running and worry that public officials don't understand how bad the problems are. Man, they are destroying the public school system on purpose. And here in Texas, we got the push for those vouchers, and it's really to take more money out of the public school system and put it in the private schools and leave these inner city kids screwed. All of the kids that, their families don't have enough money to pay to go to these private schools are screwed. So it's really a class warfare that's going on, and they don't like anything public. They're going to call it communism or whatever. Like, how can you call public education communism? Like, get all the way the fuck out of here. Like, don't you want smart people or educated people around you? And there goes the school to prison pipeline. The building is trash. The teachers are trash. The They're not learning anything. They graduate with not being able to read and write. So what do you think's going to happen? They're either going to end up being a low-level worker or a criminal. Like they don't have any other choices in life. It says Idaho hasn't done an official assessment of school building conditions in 30 years. Publica tried to fill the gap with help of people who know the best system. I'm not going to read this because I think it's going to be the stuff I already said. Comments, it says, staunchly Republican state for decades and decades. I wonder if Republicans have diverted most funds to pay for the school voucher scam like they have in other stronghold states. That's exactly what I said. People are sold on that voucher thing too. They're straight up lying to y'all. They're screwing the public. It's a class warfare. If you've got enough money to put your kid in a private school, then your kid is fine. But if you don't, your kid is screwed. Talk about no kid left behind. All kids who don't have a good income bracket for their parents are left behind in our present system. And it's only been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. It says these damn Democrat-run states need to get their act together and start investing in children. That's sarcasm. First comment says sarcasm. Another comment reply to that one. It says, of course, that they love them hungry, ill, and uneducated. Another reply says, you fool yet? You got fed quite a lot with these comments. Another comment, it says, thank goodness we got our $100 refund for the Idaho's budget surplus. They love to brag about. Another one, it says, unless you're a billionaire, Republicans running your state is bad news for you and everyone around you. But what I'll say about this with the schools is this is true across the board. This is one of those bipartisan deals. This is one of those good cop, bad cop deals, because you see this in Republican-led states and cities and Democratic-ran states and cities. And you also see disparities between one school and another one. And what the excuse you can make is the taxes related to housing, because the home property taxes goes that, and then they have the school tax or whatever. And so these different income neighborhoods, but it's kind of like how they do the damn districts. And people don't really understand the gerrymandering districts, but it's the same thing with the school districts too, and the way they draw those up and with the public funding or whatever. But okay, you could say that that's the reason why certain school districts get more funding or whatever, but then you have federal funds that come in also. So you can fill the gap and even the playing field with those federal funds to get those underperforming and under income receiving school districts to be more at the level of those ones that have a bunch of funds. It shouldn't be this huge dramatic shift in the facilities and the quality of teachers, the food that they're getting from one school to the next. But this is the system. And like I say, it's Republicans and Democrats. They are bipartisan on this shit. It's really a class issue. It's not even really race. It's about money. Who has the most money gets the best freaking facilities. They like separate but equal. Remember back when we had the freaking when we had segregated schools, right? And so you had the white schools that were nice, and then you had the black schools who were like a chicken coop, right? So, but they were like, the Supreme Court said, before that they said separate but equal, but it's like they proved that wasn't true. So then they had to make it all the same, and that's the reason why they integrated the schools. But they found ways around that by drawing up certain districts in the way that they draw them up. And a lot of times it's economically based, but a lot of times these are majority white neighborhoods And that's where all the funding goes for the schools, and the intercity urban quote unquote schools don't get the funding, and those schools are trash. So we still have the same thing, you know. And I don't know if people really understand it, but we're more segregated than we were before. Like, the segregation is crazy because and people want to argue that people segregate themselves, and I think there is a little bit of truth in that, because in the prisons you see that, but there's pressures that push for this to be that way. So, but then you'll be like, no, there's no segregation. Okay, well, in your school, in your job, where you work at is fairly integrated, except for when you start looking at what the job positions are. Certain positions are held by certain ethnic groups, and that's just how it works. Upper management tends to be a certain ethnic group. The freaking cleaning crew, tend to be a certain ethnic group. But in the building, it's integrated. That's fine. But then guess what? After they get off of work and then they go home, guess what? All of the cleaning crew people live in this neighborhood, and all of the upper management people live in this neighborhood. Completely, thoroughly segregated. Another comment says, shameful, let me guess, another R state giving tax refunds and passing strict abortion laws while school buildings fall apart, rot, and the ever important banning drag queen reading hours. Why is half the country supporting these absurd policies? It's insane. And it's the Republican response going to be vouchers. I agree with the part where it says the Republican response is vouchers, because that is evident. But I disagree with her saying our states, because like I said earlier, this is true across the board, actually. Another one, it says, do a brief Google on how school districts and funding works. Quit being sheep and getting drawn into the political argument. Start using your brains. I'm telling y'all, man, type something in your damn search browser and stop listening to whatever anybody says. Look that shit up yourself. They're lying to you. They're misleading you. They know you're not going to take the time to look it up. It's a smart guy, and you figure he's not going to lie to you, and you just go with what he says or whatever. He's grifter. He's a grifter, and he's taking advantage of you, and he's using you. Look it up yourself. Another comment says, but somehow we have billions to fund genocide. Another one that says, more billions to Ukraine, though. Another one that says, every bomb, every warplane is theft of the future and potential of this country's children. And our country is falling apart, y'all. I know no matter which side you're on, you can agree with that. So what do? What are some ways to keep the country from falling apart? Well, here's one. Invest in the future of the country by investing in the children, not picking certain children to invest in. Invest in the children wholly, all of them. Make sure they can eat some lunch and breakfast. Make sure they got a teacher that's not freaking stressed out and poor and struggling and not getting paid shit. Make sure they got facilities that's worth the shit. Sports programs. Make sure they have all the tools they need. Books, pencils, pens, laptops. Instead of arguing about what books are on the shelf that the kids can have, make sure that every school has a functioning library. Screw what books are in there. Make sure they have time, to explore their interests. It says Attorney General Lawrence Wasden has announced receipt of $22.2 million paid to the state of Idaho by tobacco companies as part of the 1998 Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement. To date, the tobacco settlement payments made to the state total more than $564 million. This money is deposited into Millennium Fund, where a portion is used for anti-smoking education. The rest just sits there. This state is sitting on a ton of money. Governor Little touts himself as a family man and is a grandfather to 6 grandchildren. Does he care about the thousands of other kids in the state? Nope. They don't make enough money. They don't care about them. You know, I'm really sensitive about this topic and this situation, and I'm putting my life in this. I'm about to graduate from school, and my plan is to be a teacher, and I'm working on that. And it's not having anything to do with how much money I'm going to get paid. I'm doing it because I really do believe the children are our future. And I feel like some people can't be reached. And hopefully I can reach some kids, and I can make a difference in the world by reaching some children, you know, and I can go out in the world and make a difference in the world, you know, hopefully open their eyes and guide them. I know everyone is like, you're supposed to make money and look out for your family and friends or whatever. And it's like, you can't change the world. It's impossible. Okay. I can agree with all of that or whatever, but I want to try, you know, and I feel like my life was, you know, used for something good, you know, hopefully make a difference. Just hope and pray. You know, I believe in God, you know, and I just have to do what's right in my soul, in my heart, what I feel is right, regardless of what the outcome ends up being. I can't just live my life about making money like it's empty. So, yeah, a lot of racism undertones are related to this particular topic, and a lot of people wouldn't admit that. And they're saying that it's other things, you know. But yeah, Harvard is known to be a bit racist. What's his name? The guy who's running for president. Goodness gracious, why can't I think of his name? I can't think of names lately. Oh, what is his name? Black guy running for president. He was a Harvard professor. He didn't get tenure after being there forever, and they were treating him unfairly, and that's why he left. And that's the reason why he's got time to run for president too, because he's no longer a professor at Harvard. Anyways, it says Harvard president faced death threats, racial slurs before resigning. It says former Harvard president Claudine Gay, who resigned on Tuesday. Why is her name Claudine Gay? Like, God. Claudine Gay, who resigned on Tuesday, has revealed she faced death threats and was repeatedly called the N-word in recent weeks as the right-wing effort to oust her intensified over the handling of campus protests and her past academic research. Claudine Gay had become Harvard's first Black president just 6 months ago. In an op-ed in the New York Times, she wrote, "They recycled tired racial stereotypes about Black talent and temperament. They pushed a false narrative of indifference and incompetence." She also wrote, "This was merely a single skirmish in a border war to unravel public faith and pillars of American society." It says, for more coverage of the conservative campaign to oust Claudine Gay from the Harvard leadership, please visit da-da-da-da. So, yeah, you know, the whole thing was, you know, when they questioned her over the Israel deal, where they were saying, you know, anti-Semitism, you know, are you protecting your Jewish people who go to your school and stuff like that. And so it became a right versus left type of thing for the people who are supporting Israel or whatever. And then a lot of the comments online was saying that she was ignorant, she's stupid, she doesn't know stuff. And it's like, she's the president of Harvard. Like, what do you know? Like, how can you call this person stupid? Like, okay, you could feel your racial prejudices, biases leading you to believe something, but where does your common sense tell you? Like, Harvard is like an elite school for a reason. And like, for you to become the president of Harvard, like they're not going to give you this job. Like they want to be like it was um um what's the word? Where they give you a job because they're based on the color of your skin. Why can't I think now? I'm getting tired. I'm talking too much on the show. Um why can't I think of what it is? Anyways, no, like you have to earn these kinds of positions. Like there's no way in hell that you're gonna become the president of Harvard without knowing a lot of stuff. Like these people are smart as hell. They would dance around you, and then you are calling them stupid. Like it hurts me, my academic mind. It hurts me when people that haven't even been to school. Not to say that people that go to school are technically smarter than people that didn't. You can learn stuff without going to school, but you still got to do the work. You got to read books. You got to learn shit, one way or the other, going to school or not going to school, you have to learn shit. But you're going to sit at your house on your couch and say that, and you never read a freaking book that's got more than 300 pages or something. And you're going to say these people are stupid. Like, oh, it makes me want to vomit. And then, like I say, it's a lot of this is racially motivated, And then you have the other side of it. That's the partisan left versus right, Republican versus Democrat thing going on. And then you got this blind fucking support of Israel that is on this. Comments. It says the most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman, Malcolm X. Another one says, right before she was lectured by a white woman about hate crimes and anti-Semitism. Another comment. Oh, it says, is this a surprise to anyone? Nope. And maybe she was fired or maybe she actually quit. Those positions and those jobs is really hard to tell when someone got fired or they actually quit. I would go with she got fired, and it was just a lot of pressure. And then they were talking about plagiarism, like they were trying to find a reason to show incompetence or whatever, or lack of integrity and all of that, reasons to get rid of her, basically. And it's like plagiarism. And it was like stuff that didn't have nothing to do with her academics. It was just they were trying to find something. You have a hard time. People like this, you're going to have a hard time finding stuff to justify firing them or whatever. But it was such politically heated, and then the power of AIPAC is undeniable. Undeniable. Another comment says, truly shocking. She supports free speech and criticism of the state of Israel and gets falsely and hatefully labeled as an anti-Semite. She resigns for racially charged death threats and the world cheers. How did we get here? Let's read some replies to this. It says, you really know absolutely nothing about this situation. You really need to start reading alternative media. Harvard has become a place of absolute hate towards Jewish people, led by the chancellor, who did nothing about it when the Jewish students complained that this has nothing to do with criticism of the Jewish state, has to do with treatment of Jewish people at the school. Bullshit. BS. So all of a sudden, what did they say, 6 months? So all of a sudden, in 6 months, since this person became president, all of a sudden, Harvard becomes a place that's hateful towards Jewish people. How does that happen? How much power does the president actually have that they can have power over the students and what the students are doing? Like they can motivate the students to be hateful towards Jewish people within 6 months. They can tell the staff, be hateful towards Jewish people. Like, this is our policy. Like, the common sense in that is not there. Another reply says, you definitely don't have a grasp of what she said or refused to say and are just spouting uneducated nonsense. It's always the uneducated people who are saying somebody is uneducated. Another reply says, how dare you want to wipe Israel off the map? You should go back to living in your closet and taking selfies. You have no idea what you're talking about. You are nothing but a misinformed little child. Who said something about wiping Israel off the map? Another reply says, I stand with Israel, not terrorists. Another one says, we know you know nothing about the situation, so sit down, please. Another comment, it says, over 23K Palestinians killed already, over half of which are women and children. 7,000 are missing and presumed dead. Over 58K wounded. 70% of Gaza has been leveled to the ground. No discretion between terrorists, civilian, women, child is being made. You stand with this. Replies, says she's part of the elite, not your friend. Get an effing grip. Says 100%. First off, you have no idea how many people were actually killed because you're relying upon information from the Gaza Health Ministry, which is Hamas. Do you actually trust Hamas? Those arguments make me want to vomit. So Hamas has a network tunnels that they use to get in all these rockets and military items, and why can't they do something to bring these people food or sneak them out through the tunnels to hide them? Where? Why did they just start a war with Israel and then leave them out in the open to be killed? Leave them out in the open and randomly start a war with Israel? I would really love to hear your answer to that. Okay, let me answer for them. It said, what did he say? Hamas has a network of tunnels they used to get in all the rockets and military items. Why can't they do something to bring these people food or sneak them out through tunnels or hide them? Like sneak them out where you're talking about millions of people. How are they going to fit to hide them in the tunnels? Food. How you're talking about millions of people, and then where is the food going to come from? And what else did they say? Are you saying that you support Hamas and you're supporting them standing in war with Israel and you support all of the hostages they have taken? Hold on. It says, are you saying that you support Hamas and you support them starting a war with Israel? Starting a war with Israel. So the Palestine has been under occupation for a long ass time. It's not like they just started a war with Israel. It's more like they were reacting to the conditions that they have been living under. It's just not like out the blue, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, we want to just have a war with Israel, like out the blue for no reason. It says, Israel, you support all the hostages they have taken and not given back. Do you even know what they did to those hostages that they did release? Go do a little research. They were torturing these people in many different ways. I have no sympathy for anybody. I have no sympathy for anybody in Gaza who helps support what they do to Israel. So little babies don't have nothing to do with nothing. You have no sympathy for them. Do a little research. It's always the people who don't do no research talking about do some research. What was your research? Your TikTok freaking show? TikTok clip? Let's read some more comments. Those replies are long. Hold on. They ended up in an argument. Come on, Chaka, get better at this. I don't want to read the replies. They're arguing with each other. Are we still in the replies? It says, yep, know who you are not allowed to criticize to know who owns you. Are those the same replies? Let's move on. Everybody already got their mind made up on that stuff. And a lot of it is driven by prejudice.
Times found that child labor was being used in the supply chains of Ford, General Motors, J.Crew, Walmart, Target, Fruit of the Loom, and yes, even Whole Foods. Oh, so that's why their chicken's $10 a pound. It's artisanally wrapped by organic human toddlers. This is happening all across the country. There are 12-year-old roofers in Florida and Tennessee, underage slaughterhouse workers in Delaware, Mississippi, and North Carolina, children making Ford and General Motors auto parts in Michigan, and in Los Angeles, children are baking dinner rolls sold at Walmart. I mean, I knew Walmart was exploiting workers who are 80, but not workers who are 8. So what the fuck is happening? The New York Times found that child labor was being used in the supply chains of Ford, General Motors, J.Crew, Walmart, Target, Fruit of the Loom, and yes, even Whole Foods. Oh, so that's why their chicken's $10 a pound. It's artisanally wrapped by organic human toddlers. This is happening all across the country. There are 12-year-old roofers in
I'm happy to see this guy. He was on Redacted tonight, and it was a great show that got axed when they did what they did related to RT, basically disbanded RT, just deleted old buddy's channel and everything. A lot of these people are American, United States citizens who worked for them, and they did great journalism. And these are comics too, so basically they're comics and they do journalism. And I haven't seen him around in a while. I think they said he was sick. I'm happy to see him back doing his thing here. And it's a smaller little thing because it's on his little channel. Before he was on a show or whatever. He's probably not even making money off of this. But I'm still happy to see him doing his thing. He's a really funny guy, really smart guy too. I like his stuff. So anyways, the whole thing with the child labor is really, really crazy. And I think a lot of people wouldn't even believe that it's true. But then you got people that support this stuff and they're like, oh, it what do they say? American values or whatever. It instills in them like work ethics or whatever. It was a reason why all of these laws came out to keep from, because corporations will do whatever they want to do to make money, man. It's all about profit for them. So if they can hire some kids and pay them freaking candy bars, they will do it. So you have to have laws in place to keep them from being able to do that stuff. So, but regulations have been cut left and right, and these corporations are taking advantage of it, and they're making profits out the wazoo, you know? And these are big brands that you support, and you're okay with them freaking having kids out there. These kids getting hurt. I covered in the other show, kids dying, getting hurt and maimed and shit, working in these really terrible conditions. I mean, even adults shouldn't be working in these conditions, but you should be appalled to see children getting their life cut short to try to make a couple of extra dollars, man. Like, that's crazy. I don't know how anybody, if you're right, left, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, I don't see how anybody can support that. And it was a reason my nose is itching. Like, I don't know why. I feel like I got something in my nose. There's a reason why these laws came about, man. We're going backwards. It says child labor has been found in the supply chains of major brands right here in the United States. Comments, it says, we need to counter this by teaching about unions in schools early, also by calling it out. There's no reason to have child labor anywhere, anytime. And a lot of this, it's even worse across seas, you know, and you kind of like expect it in other countries, like what quote unquote third world countries or the global south, or however you want to say it. Both of those terms are kind of racist and outdated. But to see it here in the States, it should be really, really completely appalling, you know. But you got major brands who rely on child labor so that they can make a bunch of freaking money. And this attack on unions, you know, the unions have been gutted over the years, and that's the reason why you don't have protections for workers. And that's also what leads to these kinds of situations, because if it was unions, then there's no way that, you know, they could hire some kid, because that would be against the union. Another comment, it says, so close the border. How does that relate? Let's see what the replies say. Did somebody get in this dude's butt for making that comment? It says, how will closing the border protect children being exploited within the U.S.? Like, how? Explain. It says the children are undocumented migrants from the southern border. This is why this needs to be stopped. In order to cross through Mexico, make it to the border, they're being used by drug cartels, human trafficking because of the porous border. There is a reason why paperwork is needed and not a free, open border to a third world country. Get all the way the F out of here, bro. Like, so the kids that's being hired at these companies are illegal immigrants. Where do you get that from? Where'd you get that information from? How did you come to that conclusion? What data do you have to support that? Another reply says, like I said, how will closing the border won't protect the children already in the U.S.? How, bro? How? It says, reply, it says, right, there's a reason paperwork is needed to stop the criminal business owners that hire and exploit immigrants. And regular freaking people, American citizens, what about the American citizens that they're hiring as children? So, you know, is the paperwork going to protect? So why don't you focus on the laws or the regulations to keep from these companies hiring kids, period, whether they're legal or not, whether they're immigrants or not, whether they have paperwork or not? Reply says, that sounds more like applying a Band-Aid to cancer. Exactly. Like, it's not addressing the issue. And this is what politics is doing. And I got something on that too, but it's funny how they'd rather argue about the problem than focus on, you know, actual solutions. It says this is the abstinence-only education of immigration policy, and it works about as well. Another one, it says, obviously it's the fault of the brown children. They rolled up and forced American employers to illegally give them jobs at cheap wages. Those poor, downtrodden employees. Like, it's an example of blaming the victim. Another comment, it says, these are replies to the original comment. It says, do you genuinely think that tightening border security will prevent employers from doing illegal things? Do you think that if those specific children weren't here, that those employers would have simply accepted paying higher wages and more taxes? Where's your logic in your thinking? Another reply says, there are tremendous numbers of kids, multitude of kids that are being sold as sex slaves today in America. There are American kids, American born, 50% to 60% of them coming out of the foster care industry. Jeff Rogers, co-founder of the United States Institute Against Human Trafficking. Yeah. So, yeah, it's like human trafficking is happening, but what about the border? It's like, okay, there are human trafficking happening at the border. What about all the human trafficking that's not at the border? The Epstein list just came out. Were all of those kids people that crossed the border in Mexico? Another reply says, they actually aren't, for the most part. American-born kids make up a large number of those getting killed in the industries children are being exploited in. Exactly. I'm sure the majority of them, like I said, I've covered multiple stories on this show of kids getting hurt. These were not illegal immigrants. For one comment, it says relevance. That's what I'm saying. What is, like, how do y'all make everything, like, y'all just stretch and reach? And it's like, if we talk about kids being exploited in the market, the border, immigration. Another reply says, that's what you got out of this? Just say you're a bigot and be done with it. This is him trying to protect himself again. He says, how's that? It isn't white or black kids that are being used as slave labor. What's wrong with holding Mexico responsible for allowing every third world country in the world allowing people to illegally cross out southern border? Is Adam being racist by reporting that illegal immigrants being used as laborers? again, bro, like, where are you getting this from? Like, you're just hammering your freaking, you're making yourself look really dumb. Like, what evidence do you have to support your thoughts here? I mean, the border is an issue. It totally is. But how is that related to this, what we're talking about, child labor? You're going to say that the reason why we have child labor is because of the border? Another reply says, they aren't necessarily undocumented immigrants. Plenty of families below the poverty line with too many mouths to feed would gladly send their 10-year-old to work. Another comment, it says, are they getting paid? Question mark. I don't understand what's the point of that? I mean, replies, it says, not very much, I can guarantee you that, and it's unsafe, and they're supposed to be in effing school because they're children. Telling you, like, are they getting paid? So it's like, well, they're child laborers, but are they getting paid? I mean, like, hey, they're making money. God. Reply says, child labor, yes, but teen labor, no. I think if a 12-year-old wants to simple register job or deliver newspapers over the summer, they should be legally allowed to. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's been the case for a long time. If it doesn't interfere with school, whatever, it's over the summer. They can do it on their own, like, time or whatever. You know, it's not dangerous. You know, it's not labor intensive. Another reply says, yeah, I mean, the 12-year-old at Walmart, fine, as long as they aren't being forced to work or if it's in a dangerous job like construction or an Amazon warehouse. No, 12-year-old worker at Walmart is not fine. No, it's not. Says it's a very fine line, I know, but I remember being that young and I hated the fact that I had to wait to get a job just because of my age. Anyone can run a register. No, they can't. They got to be. This is the thing that pisses me off. How people say low skill workers and like non-skill workers or whatever. No, it takes skill to deal with these stuff. Like, no, not anybody can run the register. No, kid shouldn't be in there anyways. He should be focusing on his education, his future, you know, not trying to freaking already get into the. My daughter is 16 years old already, and she's like thinking about getting a job or whatever. But I'm like, you got plenty of time to get a job. You're going to be working for the rest of your life. There's no reason to hurry into doing that. Like, take your time as long as you can. Like, you know, you're going to be working for the rest of your life. No need to rush into that shit. Freaking live your life. Learn some stuff. You know. It says using migrants for labor, then complaining about migrants coming in. That's the whole fucking schizophrenia of the United States. It's like, you know, I want somebody to work in my fields because I can't find any Americans to do it. But those illegal immigrants are taking over the country and taking our jobs and bringing in terrorists. So which one is it, bro? You got to pick a side. Another comment says, here in India, you know what child labor is called? Labor. There's nothing wrong with child labor in the U.S. as long as it's safe and they get the minimum wage and it's taxed. Well, first off, it's not safe. They're probably not getting the minimum wage. Another comment says, a lot of people don't want to work and a lot of kids and their families need the money to survive. We don't live in. Why are we in a position where so many people, the families, need money to survive? That's the question. It says we don't live in a utopia. Oh my God. And Adam, I love what you're doing, but without solutions, you're just barking. Maybe that's the point, shedding light, but it's not going to change because 95% of the world sees nothing wrong with it. Fight for stricter laws on it to increase the cost is where it's no different than hiring an adult, and the capitalist behavior will change. Well, you are probably the same person who push against regulations against these corporations. Oh, it hurts them. It costs them money. They can't create enough jobs or whatever with all these regulations. 95% of the world says nothing wrong with it. Whatever, man. Doesn't matter where you are. The kids should be able to spend time growing up and learning stuff instead of freaking backbreaking. There's a reason why these laws came out. These kids were getting mutated. They were getting like growth deficiencies. They were putting little kids in little bitty box areas where adults couldn't fit, and they would sit there for like 12, 14 hours a day. You know, horrible, man. Torture type shit. Because once you let them do it, then they just open the freaking chain. So, you know, if it's okay for them to work, then is it okay for you to freaking exploit them in other ways, like sexually, or, you know, I mean, it, you know, anyways. One more comment. It says, not surprised since Musk has child labor and exploits workers, and Bezos as well. We need to boycott Bezos and Musk's. Boycott is good, but changing the laws is better.
That we find ourselves in. Hold the line. None of us want to shut down the government.
We don't know what's happening to them on the way. Yeah. This is a humanitarian crisis. We walk through the centers today, Jake. It would make the average American citizen cry to see what's happening here, and it must stop.
Right, which is why some people are saying, why not pass the $14 billion supplemental bill that President Biden has put before you to at least try to help with some of these issues?
That won't solve. That won't solve any of the problems I just articulated.
Right,
that won't do a darn thing.
Well, I'm sure the people in the Border Patrol agents that you're with think it might do something, at least in terms of making their job a little easier for the next month or so.
No, actually they don't.
They don't want the $14 billion?
Jake, the president should come to the border. What an idea that would be. He should talk to the Border Patrol agents who are down here. The morale is low.
Oh, that's gonna hurt! So let's get this straight for everyone. You want to complain about the border to the extent in which you'll force a government shutdown, but you don't want to pass any bills to actually help with the problem at hand. You know, the worst kept secret in Washington is that Republicans have no real interest in solving any problems at the border, because then what will they campaign on? Being anti-Taylor Swift?
She's been on social media a lot. Now you're thinking, okay, so we all have to register to vote. We're all suddenly Democrats.
At one point, she yells the F-bomb. I don't know if I could do that in front of my husband's mom.
I don't really care. She's going to dump him anyway.
This is going to be a bad thing for the chief.
The question is, what will break his heart first? His new relationship with Taylor Swift or the COVID shot?
I think the commissioner set this up.
They simply like complaining about issues with no real solution, because the solution isn't as useful to them. Republican Speaker, 10th time of asking Mike Johnson, went on CNN today to face off with Jake Tapper, and after about 5 minutes, you could tell by the look on his face, he realized this wasn't going to be his usual Fox News fiesta, where any conspiracy theory goes, just as long as God told you to say it.
Most people believe it may be twice that high. We have nearly 2 million gotaways that we know about, not to mention those who evaded capture. Over 300 known terrorists apprehended at the border trying to come in. We don't know how many evaded capture and detection. They're in the country, potentially setting up terrorist cells everywhere. Fentanyl is the #1 cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 49, flowing over the border like an open sewer. Human trafficking is the #1 business of the cartels here. Estimated, we were told today, Jake, one of the local sheriffs here said that they believe that the cartels are making $32 million a week on trafficking human beings into the U.S. That's over $1.5 billion a year. Transnational criminal organizations, and the Biden administration seems to care nothing about it. Remember, they could issue executive orders and fix this overnight. You could reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy. You could stop the catch and release policy that the Biden administration insists upon. You could do some very important things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that they're, 200 members of Hamas have flown into the country, and we don't even know about it.
We don't know what's happening to them on the way.
Yeah.
This is a humanitarian crisis. We walk through the centers today, Jake. It would make the average American citizen cry to see what's happening here, and it must stop.
Right, which is why some people are saying, why not pass the $14 billion supplemental bill that President Biden has put before you to at least try to help with some of these issues?
That won't solve. That
No,
won't
it's not-
solve
it's
any
not
of the problems
no.
I just articulated.
Right,
That
no,
won't
no.
do a darn thing.
Well,
No.
I'm sure the people in the Border Patrol agents that you're with think it might do something, at least in terms of making their job a little easier for the next month or so.
No, actually they don't.
They don't want the $14 billion?
No. I just quoted to you.
It's crazy. They're so crazy. Like, okay, we got a problem at the border. I think we all can agree on that, regardless of which side you are on the aisle. So then they have this thing where they want to send money to the border to help with the issue on the border. But then you have people that are saying, no, we don't want this money. It's not going to help the situation. It's like, how can you say that? I mean, where is the logic in that? I mean, more border agents. I covered a story where they were talking about they're overwhelmed at the border, right? It's so many that's coming over that they don't have time or they don't have enough men to deal with it. They're getting overwhelmed. So if they had more border agents there working, would that not help to prevent people from coming over? You know, I mean, you could go down the list and find reasons why more money there would help. You talk about people that are trying to get asylum, and you want to go through the process of seeking asylum, and they don't have enough freaking buildings to do that. You know, they don't have enough people working to do that. You don't have enough people to sort them out and figure them out. Like you talk about, okay, you have people that are terrorists or whatever. How can you determine if they're terrorists or not? You know, wouldn't more money going to facilities and people allow you to be able to determine who these people are, doing some kind of research or whatever? What about equipment and technology or whatever, like video surveillance or something that you can put up to like help possibly identify these people and determine, you know, who they are or whatever, you know, processing these people to determine who they are, you know, like what about money that you can use to do more fencing, deter stuff to deter people from crossing, you know, like you had in Texas where they installed the barrier that got a lot of news some months ago, where they had the like thing with the spikes in it or whatever, the floating buoys or whatever, you know, that costed money, right? The Texas had to flip the bill on that, and people were cheering that on, you know, as something to at least try to deter from people crossing on certain parts of the Rio Grande or whatever. And so how can you on one hand say that you want to deal with the border, it's a crisis, and then on the other hand say the money won't help? You know, I don't understand this at all. Like, I think like it's clearly politics. So like if Biden was so like for open borders, then why would he be sending money to the border to fight against, you know, illegal crossings? So I think that the reason why they don't want to accept the money is because if it ends up being successful in any way, if it ends up cutting the amount of people crossing in any way, then it'll be a win for Biden politically, and they don't want that, right? So then they can continue to point fingers at Biden and say that he has an open border policy or whatever, you know? So like, okay, yes, policies are necessary. Policies are ways to improve things, you know, and Biden could definitely do more on the policy part to deal with the border. And, you know, you can't really argue with that. But, you know, sending money down there can also help. Okay. So I don't get where, you know, they can just sit there and say, you know, we want to help with the border. The border is a crisis, but we don't want you to send money. Like, what the F, y'all? Help me understand this. Wait a minute. Where's the Newsom part of this?
It's exactly the position that we find ourselves in. Hold the line. None of us want to shut down the government.
We don't know what's happening to them on the way.
Yeah.
This is a humanitarian crisis. We walk through the centers today, Jake. It would make the average American citizen cry to see what's happening here, and it must stop.
Right, which is why some people are saying, why not pass the $14 billion supplemental bill that President Biden has put before you to at least try to help with some of these issues?
That won't solve. That
No, it's
won't
not-
solve
it's
any
not
of the
solve-
problems
no.
I just articulated.
Right,
That
no,
won't
no.
do a darn thing.
Well,
No.
I'm sure that
It won't do a darn thing, and then it won't solve the problem. Okay, well, it won't solve the problem, but will it help? You know, like, what can we do to completely solve the problem? We have to look at the root causes of the situation, and that's another thing that we don't really want to do. Like, we don't really want to focus, on what we have done wrong in the past to lead to these situations being the way that they are.
Help with the problem at hand. You know, the worst kept secret in Washington is that Republicans have no real interest in solving any problems at the border, because then what will they campaign on? Being anti-Taylor Swift?
She's been on social media a lot. Now you're thinking.
And it's funny that he's making that joke related to Taylor Swift, but it has been a lot of talk about that related to Kelsey and the football team not being as successful with her being at the games, and they're like, oh, it's her fault or whatever. Like, y'all have nothing. There's so much going on in the world, and y'all want to talk about Kelsey and Taylor Swift, like.
Republican Speaker, 10th time of asking Mike Johnson, went on CNN today to face off with Jake Tapper. And after about 5 minutes, you could tell by the look on his face, he realized this wasn't going to be his usual Fox News fiesta, where any conspiracy theory goes, just as long as God told you to say it.
Most people believe it may be twice that high. We have nearly 2 million gotaways that we know about, not to mention those who evaded capture. Over 300 known terrorists apprehended at the border trying to come in. We don't know how many evaded capture and detection. They're in the country, potentially setting up terrorist cells everywhere. Fentanyl is the #1 cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 49, flowing over the border like an open sewer. Human trafficking is the #1 business of the cartels here. Estimated, we were told today, Jake, one of the local sheriffs here said that they believe that the cartels are making $32 million a week on trafficking human beings into the U.S. That's over $1.5 billion a year. Transnational criminal organizations, and the Biden administration seems to care nothing about it. Remember, they could issue executive orders and fix this overnight. You could reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy. You could stop the catch and release policy that the Biden administration insists upon. You could do some very important things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on
a lot of terrorists. Are they coming by plane or by boat? Are they all coming through the southern border? You know, are any of them coming through Canada or whatever? You know, how many terrorists have been here already? You know,
walk through the centers today, Jake. It would make the average American citizen cry to see what's happening here, and it must stop.
Right, which is why some people are saying, why not pass the $14 billion supplemental bill that President Biden has put before you to at least try to help with some of these issues?
That won't solve. That won't solve it.
And I have to say that it's not just pointing fingers at the GOP either. You know, I mean, it's good cop, bad cop. You know, two wings of the same bird. There's a reason why, like, this has been. You've had multiple administrations that, you know, the Republicans are in charge, Democrats in charge, and you continue to have this problem. Like, this goes back in history, you know, with this southern border issue, you know, and you got migration, people moving to and fro. You know, you had a time where you didn't really have so much scrutiny on the border, and it wasn't they didn't seem like it was as much of a problem. You know, I think a lot of it is politically driven. You know, it's like, I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm saying that it's makes it more
design up until election time.
It makes it more appear to be more of a problem or whatever.
It can come to an end if the Biden.
Let's read some comments. It says the GOP doesn't really want the border problem fixed. How else are they going to scare up their voters? Another comment says, does Mike Johnson know that he in fact is in charge of writing legislation as well as that Congress in the charge of drafting and working these things out? I know GOP supporters don't understand this, obviously. Yeah, so it's like, as far as blaming the Democrats or whatever about policy, pointing at Biden about policy, and Biden is the president. He doesn't write laws. Congress does that. So I think that you would do a better job pointing fingers at Congress and saying, what legislation have y'all put forth? What bills have y'all put forth to deal with this situation? Biden just signs them. Another comment says 27 bills passed last year, and this is what they are doing. While GOP governors do whatever they can to prevent children from getting nutrition, the GOP is a hate group. Another one, they don't want the problem fixed. They need the fear of immigrants for their votes. Another one, hey, Mr. Speaker, all you have to do is pass new border and immigration laws within your 435-member body. It passed on to SIMFER, their 100-member body, to pass, and the 536-person President Biden can either sign the bill into law or veto it. That's how laws are passed. But if, of course, you aren't interested in that, as you would prefer to use as a wedge in fundraising issue. Says easy fix, vote the GOP out. That's not an answer either. Like, anyways, Republicans don't want to fix it. Listen to him reject assistance to the border. Another one. The hypocrisy of the Speaker of the House saying someone else isn't doing his job when they didn't even pass 30 bills in 2023 is astounding. See, how come I can't play this clip like I want to?
People who don't have a solution. Where have these leaders? Governor DeSantis was in Congress. Where was he when they were debating immigration reform? What have any of these people done to be part of the solution?
Instead, when they're not turning life-saving devices in the Rio Grande into their own Squid Games.
Right here in Texas, Governor Abbott has heroically done more to enforce the law than the president has. And how has this administration responded? They have sued the state of Texas to stop their deterrence efforts. They have brought them to court to strike down their ability to put up buoys in the water and razor wire and the rest. It's absolute insanity.
They're playing politics with innocent lives, shipping migrants back and forth as pawns to help in a game of Twitter gotcha.
The President of the United States put a $14 billion package in front of Congress they can act on today.
And what would that?
They haven't done anything
what would that
in 2
package
year.
do?
This Congress,
What do you
literally
support?
not a single piece.
You support a border wall?
legislation. I support the $14 billion package president's put forward that includes 2,300 border agents and customs officials. By the way, also includes $850 million in new technology for border security. You hear nothing from Ron DeSantis. You hear nothing, Sean, respectfully. You hear nothing from the Republican Party. They play politics.
I'm almost out of time.
The president put
Before the break.
plan up to address
Does it
the
worry?
anxiety
Let me
around
ask the
security.
question another way. Does it worry you that our top geopolitical foes, the number one state sponsor of terror, Iran, China, Russia, Afghanistan, Syria, that they're at our southern border? You're a border state governor. Does that concern you at all? The
Why else would I have put the answer is yes. Why else would I put the National Guard? Why would I have just increased it by 50% on the largest port in the Western Hemisphere in my state?
It's disgusting. It's abhorrent, but it's the GOP.
It's exactly the position that we find ourselves in. Hold the line. None of us want to shut down the government.
We don't know what's happening to them.
I don't want to shut down the government, but you threatened shutting down the government to deal with the border, but you don't want to take the money out. That clip of Buttigieg was really good, and I didn't play the whole thing just now. And I'm not a fan of Buttigieg. I don't like him. Not a fan of Buttigieg. Get out of here. You're messing up my show. But he made a good comment in here. That clip was so like weird how it would repeat over and over, and then it goes into the other part. Like, I don't know, the editing of it was bad, and then I can't freaking manipulate the video for some reason. I don't understand why I don't have the power to skip through this. Usually I can click on it and pull up the little bar at the bottom and skip through, but it won't let me do that. It's like, am I doing something wrong? Let's just kind of wait for it. Yeah, this is the, you know, we're in election year, and the border is going to be the deal. You got the Roe versus Wade, you got DEI and affirmative action. And these are going to be the issues of this year's election. The top dog issues. It says GOP, oh, you mean tax breaks for billionaires isn't good platform to run on, while the middle class supports running the country paying theirs? Imagine that. It says, who was it that said Republicans say government doesn't work and the get voted into office to prove it? Yeah, if government doesn't work, vote for me for whatever office so I can make a difference in your life. Yeah, but you just said government doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work unless I'm in there. So yeah, put me in there and then government will work for you. Because I will work for you. It says he's mad because he didn't get away with his lies on CNN. Great job, Jake, for holding him accountable. Another one, it says the GOP doesn't really want the border problem fixed. How else are they going to scare up their voters? It says, does Mike Johnson know that he in fact is in charge of writing? Did I read that already? I read that already. I'm kind of waiting for the Buttigieg clip to pop up on here. Am I losing y'all? I'm losing y'all, aren't I? Let's just listen to this a little bit again. I'm sorry, y'all, but I really want the Buttigieg part to pop up on here.
Things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that they're, 200 members of Hamas have flown into the country and we don't even know about it.
We don't know what's happening to them on the way.
Yeah.
This is a humanitarian crisis. We walked through the centers today, Jake. It would.
It's easy to say, like, it could be a bunch of terrorists coming in. Yes, it sure could be, or it could be not. Like, where's your evidence? If we don't know who these people are, then how do we know that some of them are terrorists? They could be none.
Patrol agents that you're with think it might do something, at least in terms of making their job a little easier for the next month or so.
No, actually they don't.
They don't want the $14 billion?
No. I just quoted to you the deputy chief of the U.S. Border Patrol, and he said he doesn't need more buckets. In other words, he doesn't need more personnel to handle the flow. He needs to turn the flow off. That's what we're talking about. This is not about sending more money down here. It's about changing the policy, and the White House seems not to understand that.
Yeah, but I mean, even President Trump couldn't turn the faucet off, right? I mean, I understand your point that he did more than Biden did.
He turned the flow down.
Yeah, but it's not. It's the presidency. It's not a magician. But let me just ask you one quick question.
What this interview goes to prove is that.
Yeah, how does how do you turn the flow off? He says we need to turn the flow off. It's like, well, Trump didn't even turn the flow off. Well, he did deplete it. It's like, okay, well, but you just said we need to turn the flow off.
Biden administration will do its job, and they've refused to do it. They're doing the opposite.
So the $14 billion, there are, you're right, 1,600 asylum officers that would be part of that to speed up processing of asylum claims. That's what you're talking about. But there also would be 1,300 more Border Patrol agents to work alongside the 20,200, and also funding to hire 1,000 Custom and Border Protection officers with a focus on counter fentanyl. So it's not all In fact, most of it is not related to processing asylum seekers. A lot of it has to do with what you're talking about.
Jake, the president should come to the border. What an idea that would be. He should talk to the Border Patrol agents who are down here.
I think he went last year, just FYI.
One of my favorite clips last year, which I've played many a times, was when Pete Buttigieg spoke on this very matter. How Republicans failed to offer any solution to the issues that they relentlessly complain about, because as long as they just focus on the problem, they deflect attention away from their inability to propose any solution to help fix it.
You know, I get if you're after attention. It's one thing to call attention to a problem when you have a course of action, as some of the folks here speaking up about an issue, exercising their First Amendment rights have done, or in elected office. It's another to just call attention to a problem because the problem is actually more useful to you than the solution, and that helps you call attention to yourself. And that's what's going on. And the problem, of course, it's one thing if that was just people being obnoxious, but human beings are being impacted by that. You flee a communist regime in Venezuela, you come here, and then somebody tricks you, somebody using Florida taxpayer money for some reason, tricks you into going from Texas to Massachusetts. It's not just ineffectual, it is hurting people. Obviously, there are issues with the border and with migration. But these are the kinds of stunts you see from people who don't have a solution. Where have these, Governor DeSantis was in Congress. Where was he when they were debating immigration reform? What have any of these people done to be part of the solution?
Instead.
Yeah, so that's what it is, like calling attention to the problem, but not really offering solutions. Like you really just want to focus on the problem, and then, it draws attention to yourself. It makes you look like a hero or whatever. It's basically grifting in politics. It's kind of like the thing with them busing the immigrants from Texas to New York or whatever. Whatever is whatever. You're like, okay, Texas has to deal with more immigration issues than New York. So make New York feel some of the pressure that Texas feels. Okay, fine. Where's the solution in that? Is that helping the situation? Is that dealing with the situation? Like, what are you trying to accomplish by doing that? They come over, and then you ship them to New York. And so now it's New York's problem. So it's just like, well, it's not my problem anymore. Now you just got to deal with it. But see, New York and Texas, both of them are inside the United States. The United States is one country. Like, you're not helping the United States by moving the immigrants from Texas to New York. You're not helping the situation. You're not improving the situation. Like, what do you stem to accomplish from doing that? Anyways, let's move on. We're beating a dead horse, aren't we? Let's look at this one. It says it shouldn't be controversial. Hold on, can y'all hear me? I'm having anxiety. From Texas to New York. Okay. It says it shouldn't be controversial to say that everyone should be able to retire comfortably. It says, this is Forbes, from a Forbes article. It says the fastest growing demographic in the workforce, people over 75. A new analysis by Pew Research Center finds that the share of older Americans who are working has nearly doubled since 1987. Isn't that a really sad stat? Super sad stat, man. Look at the future for a lot of people. This is the future for a lot of people. I got an older lady who works at my job, and she's really old, and like she probably works because she absolutely has to. Like, if she stops working, she won't be able to pay bills, and it's really, 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 really sad. I mean, I think regardless of what job you had throughout your life, I think you should, at the very least, be able to live the last years of your life without, now if you want to do physical stuff when you get older, it keeps you alive. I agree with that. But having to go to work is different than working in your garden or whatever, the stuff that you like to do, that you enjoy doing. But having to do it, or otherwise you're going to be evicted. So you're going to have like 75-year-olds that's living underneath the bridge and shit because they can't work anymore and they don't have any money and they just like, okay, they can't contribute to society no more, but they contributed to society for 75 years. But now society just throws them away now. It says, what a tragedy it is that the richest country in the world forces our elders to keep working. Our elders deserve to retire with dignity. We can't normalize our economy, forcing folks to work in perpetuity. It says, during negotiations with Chrysler in 1950, Walter Reuther coined the phrase too old to work, too young to die to describe the many workers who wouldn't be able to retire unless the company agreed to fully fund pensions. The UAW won the demand after 104 days on strike. It says, my 77-year-old friend died in 2023. The only reason she had been able to leave her service job, which she was too frail to do, was the fact that she got pandemic unemployment and had a cushion for the first time in years. She died thinking she had to find a job. This isn't what a healthy community looks like. Here in LA, the latest census count showed an 11% increase in homeless people 65 and older. Streamlining and expanding subsidized senior housing is a matter of human dignity. Let our elders retire in peace. It says, get a union job with a pension. What is your best practical tip for saving money in 2024? Get a union job with a pension. Yeah, so the rest of us screwed. So Perfect Union posted this. Everyone should be able to retire comfortably. Comments, it says, I feel less sympathy for this demographic because it was boomers who voted for Reaganomics. They were born into a good social safety net and completely dismantled it. You know, that's really unfair because all of the people born, you know, at that time did not support Reaganomics. Okay. So you're making the whole group, you demonizing the whole group, you know, of people based on their age. Like, that's completely unfair and not freaking realistic and just a way to freaking be a shitty person, to excuse your shitty ass fucking point of view. Let's see some replies. Hopefully somebody got in this person's ass. Let's see. It says, I'm a boomer who voted for Carter. There are lots of us. Don't generalize, please. I'm almost 70 and still have to work. Boom. Another one, it says, fair enough. Another one, it says, don't forget all the BIPOC elders who didn't vote for Reagan either. Another one, it says, I don't. They were tricked into it by lifelong anti-class conscious propaganda like that, which makes people continue to vote conservative today. The upper class is shockingly good at pitting the middle class against the lower class, so the unfathomable prosperity of the upper class at the expense of both is made invisible and unassailable. Blame the malicious boomers that actively borrowed against their peers' livelihoods and successors' futures in order to rise to power, not the rest who actually wanted things to get better for the people after them. Another one, so well said. It says, in my country, Aotearoa, aka New Zealand, this kind of divide and conquer tactic was recently used by our conservative parties to secure a win in our latest election. They pit the middle class against the lower class to advance the upper class. They pit everyday Pakeha white people against Maori indigenous people to advance the crown's authority and the powerful land-owning Pakeha that benefit. They pit small businesses against workers to advance large businesses and so on. Lots of us are rightfully angry at them for being so sleazy. It's crazy how they can use the same playbook over and over and over again, and we can't see through the shit. They just do the same tactic. They play the same play over and over and over again. If it was in football and the coach kept calling the same play, they would call him a bad coach. And somehow it keeps working. Another reply says, they were conned and manipulated into believing they were doing the right thing, and now they have to live with that. It sucks, and I do feel bad for them, to be honest. Another one that says, I never voted for a Republican in my life. I suppose you'll be blaming boomers when you're 70 for your situation. Go deeper. It's not age, it's capitalism. Comments, it says, the U.S. is a corporation. It stopped caring about women, children, and the sick, disabled, and the elderly long ago. That's the measure of a true country. Do those in power inhibit or support the quality of life for their constituents? On the whole, sadly, the majority of office could give a flying fornication how many Americans struggle. I think that's true. And, you know, John F. Kennedy was like, there's a thing trying to make every man, woman, and child into a slave. And then they killed him. He tried to get control of the Federal Reserve. You know, he tried to put us on some actual, like, our currency on something that was actually real, tangible. They killed him. Another comment says, in addition, older people continue to hold on to jobs that they really should have been able to retire from. Makes it more difficult for young graduates new to full-time work to get jobs. Part of retirement is making those jobs available to younger workers so they can begin their professional careers. So you're blaming the person that's staying in their job. It's their fault that there's no jobs. Like, well, why are they staying in the job? Is it because they're greedy? What is their motivation? Is it just because they can pay their bills? Oh, they got to pay their bills, you know, and they're hogging up all the jobs. Now we can't have any jobs. Like, come on. Talking about blaming the victim. Another comment says, they're not working because they're forced to. They're working because the wages are so good. Their retirement accounts are historic highs. They're working because their wages are so good? What? Like, people just want to keep on working till they die, right? That's what everybody wants to do. Like, people don't want to travel and live their life and just enjoy life after working their whole life. They just want to keep on working because they're getting paid so much. What are they going to do with the money after they're about to die? They already bought everything that they need. Like, they have everything. If they're getting such good wages, there's no point to keep on working. If you're freaking got good wages and you've got everything, they're just being greedy. It says our currency is broken, fix the money, fix society, simple. I think there's a lot of truth in that. I guess that goes back to the comment I just made about JFK. Money is worth less and less. BRICS has just had like 7 countries join them. They are becoming a huge block. And the hegemony of the American dollar is losing. Another comment says it would only get worse until the people realize their collective power and demand system reforms across the board. Then and only then does this country have a chance to become great. Another one, it says, this is why Republicans want to get rid of Social Security, so old people have to re-enter the labor force, along with removing child labor laws, further exploitation and suppression of labor. Says, I was shocked when I moved to the U.S. how many older people were still working. Another one says, I've always disliked the lack of support we give to helping out the elderly. Healthcare and a place for them to live is crazy expensive, and they're at the life where it's harder for them to be self-sufficient. They are at the most vulnerable. And our economic system is all about exploitation. You know, that's how they make more money. That's how they make profit. So creating more people that are in a position to be exploited benefits our system when you have profit over people. That's the same reason why the immigration issue will never be fixed as long as we got profit over people. These corporations want to have illegals over here because they can pay them under the table, or they can pay them less than everybody else. They can exploit them, make them not pay them at all kinds of stuff, because they can't fight back or unionize or anything because they're not even legal. So you have, these are the groups that are growing in our workforce. illegals, children, and elderly, the people that are the most easily exploited. Our system wants, labor, exploitable labor. They'd love to have slaves again, but they can't do that, so they just use immigrants, children, and old people. It says copper could skyrocket over 75% to record highs by 2025. Brace for deficits, analysts say. So if you have some money, hey, I'm no economic expert, and these are not economic advice, but putting your money in copper might be a good idea. It says copper prices are set to soar more than 75% over the next 2 years amid mining supply disruptions and higher demand for the metal, fueled by the push for renewable energy. Rising demand driven by the green energy transition and a likely decline in the US dollar in the second half of 2024 will push copper prices higher, according to a report by BMI and Fitch Solutions as research unit. Markets are banking on the US Federal Reserve to cut rates this year, which will weaken the dollar and in turn make the greenback priced copper more attractive to foreign buyers. Additionally, at the recent COP28 climate change conference, more than 60 countries backed a plan to triple global renewable energy capacity by 2030, a move that Citibank says would extremely bullish for copper. In a December report, the Investments Bank forecast that the higher renewable energy targets would boost copper demands by extra 4.2 million tons by 2030. This would potentially push copper prices $15,000 a ton in 2025, the report added, way higher than the record peak of $10,730 per ton scaled in March last year. So, I mean, a lot of people don't like the direction we're going in with this renewable energy stuff. And I'm on board with that too. I don't like, it's a money grab that's happening is what I think, And like the electric cars are not the answer. Clearly, mass transit is the answer when it comes to that kind of stuff. And the wind farms are not the answer. They got all kinds of problems and limitations or whatever. We could use a lot more related to solar powered stuff. I think that could help a lot. And I'm surprised that we haven't gone further in that direction. When I was young, they came out with the little calculators that were solar powered, and they were great and they worked fine. And it was like, that's going to be the future for everything. Put a little strip on it, and it's free energy to push whatever device you have. And for some reason, that technology didn't grow. I don't understand it. But anyways, this thing with the copper, I mean, hey, like I say, regardless of how you feel about the climate change agenda, new world order, or whatever you want to call it, direction that they're going in, I mean, hey, get on board with making some money off of it, I guess. I mean, like it's going in this direction regardless of how much you like it or not. Like, so yeah, so putting some money in copper might be a good idea. Comments, it says electricians rubbing their hands right now. It says new side hustle stripping copper. Another one, greatly disagree. It says, yeah, they've been saying that for years, 2022, 2023, and now 2024. China probably not coming out of their slump anytime soon. Euro is deep in recession. US is in debts up to its eyeballs. Keep pumping CNBC. I mean, that could be true, but I don't see a problem with putting some money in copper. It's pretty damn solid anyways. Like those kind of metals are a good place to put your money. Nickel, gold, copper, pretty damn solid. Probably better than having your money in cash or whatever, just regular money sitting in the bank, because the dollar is depreciating. So, you lose money with your money just sitting there in cash. At the very least, if it doesn't grow, it'll stay more constant if it's in some kind of metal. Another one says, so keep my penny jar. A lot of the pennies aren't made with copper, like they're mixed up anyway. So I don't think that's a good choice. Another one says, so what stocks would I most benefit in investing in from this? Another one that says short copper. Another one that says TikTok ruins prices, LOL. Dr. Copper priced in already. It's a paid post. Another one, every pint maker that has old copper plates looking at the real resale value. Says what the ticker symbol for this copper. It says in this photo, GS Warehouse hoarding the copper. I covered a little bit of this. It says police say 17-year-old killed a 6th grader and wounded 5 in Iowa shooting. Multiple shooting victims at Iowa high school. A 6th grade student was shot and killed, and 5 other four students and 1 school administration were shot and wounded this morning, Perry High School in Perry, Iowa. Today was the first day back after winter break. So it's like the first day back after winter break school shooting. Iowa has the caucuses coming very soon. We're in an election year. I don't know if the kid that did this knew all of that, though. You know, we're going to conspiracy theory level right there. And like I say, stop showing the pictures of these people and the names of these people. He killed himself after he did this too. So it's like really sorry ass thing to do. It says no other nation allows gun violence to devastate their communities like this over and over again. Iowa does not require background checks on all gun sales, does not have an extreme risk law, does not require a permit or safety training to carry a concealed gun in public, does not prohibit open carry, and the list goes on. Children are paying for lawmakers' inaction with their lives. Our hearts are with the victims, their loved ones, and their entire Perry community. Our children should not have to live and die like this. And if our elected leaders did their jobs, they wouldn't have to. You know, and we talk about this issue all the time, and we argue about it on this show because I'm on one side of the issue and Doc and Pat is on the other side of the issue. But it's like, you don't have to take people's guns away to have smart gun legislation, you know, smart regulations, you know, in place to limit this kinds of thing, you know. And the other thing is the argument about mental health. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. We need to invest in mental health. Then when we talk about investing in mental health, then you vote against that, you know. So you don't want to have gun regulations, and you also don't want to put money into mental health. So you just want things to continue to be the same. Comments, it says unborn children get more protection than the ones we already have in the world. Make it make sense. It says Coach Kerr said this a few years ago, and it hasn't left my brain, that we are all being held hostage by our government who refuses any substantive action on gun reform. You know, we got to worry about going to the grocery store and getting shot by some random person. We got to worry about our kids going to school and getting shot by some random person, you know? You know, especially here in Texas, everywhere you go, it could be active shooter situation could break off at any moment. And it's like the good guy with the gun stops the bad guy with the gun. Well, did that happen here in this school shooting? You know, how many times does that actually happen? You know, we need better gun control and better gun policies. And I'm sorry how anybody feels about that. You know, okay, you don't have to take all the guns away from these people, but we need much better policies related to guns. I don't see how anybody can disagree with that. We're not. You don't have to give turning your guns. Just have some more stuff like laws related to storage of the weapons, laws related to people with criminal history, mental health history, stuff like that. Being able to purchase firearms legally, stuff related to how old you are getting access to weapons, you know, stuff like holding parents accountable when they haven't safely stored their weapon and the children's get a hold of it, and you know, like it's a long list. Force people to go through training and constant training related to weapon safety and usage to be able to legally carry firearms, you know. And like when I say safety storage, if you have your gun in your car and somebody could just break into your car and get your weapon, then that there should be a law with that. So if you do have your gun in your car, then it should be locked up in a way that if someone broke into your car, they wouldn't be able to get to your gun, because it's not safely stored if it's just under your seat, or it's just in the glove box, or it's just in a holster in there. You know, you're like, okay, well, if it's locked away, then I can't get to it fast enough to deal with the situation. Okay, that's fair, I get it, but it's also somebody else can't get to the gun as fast either. Another comment says, in my opinion, considering the shooter was 17, the adults of the shooter should also be held liable. Another one, it's the effing guns. Another one, I wonder if other countries know we don't want this. Another comment, it says, our wins, you need to wake up and stop following the MAGA agenda of violence and hatred. Another one, our leaders do not care about children. They've shown us time and time again. One more, I'm gonna move on. I live in Roseville, California, and a 10-year-old just shot and killed another 10-year-old. It's depressing how common this has become. Yeah, I know which case that is. And the dad is in jail right now. The dad is in jail because they got the dad's weapon and shot and killed another 10-year-old. So he's locked up. One more. Meanwhile, in the UK, they're banning an entire dog breed because of a handful of deaths. America is so sad and doesn't care about its people. It's really not that. It's really that the corporations have a strong hold over everything. You know, you got the lobbyists, the corporations, they write legislation, and Congress is in these corporations' pockets. And it's not just the NARA. Why can't I think of it? I see, I'm getting tired. It's not just like, it's the gun manufacturers. It's the people who are making money off of guns, bullets, and so forth and so on. You know, gun sales. They are the ones that don't want any real regulations because they're making the money train. So that's really what it is. I think Americans do care about children or whatever. They want their weapons at the same time. I get it, but the legislatures are, their hands are tied behind their back because their campaigns, the money in politics is the real issue. You know, it costs money to run and to get in office, and so you have to take care of the ones who got you in office. And a lot of times it's somebody like a gun manufacturer. And if you try to pass some legislation to limit the amount of money that they're making, then they're just going to back your competitor and you're not going to get reelected. And they know, the Congress people, the elected officials, they know this.
To avoid taxes, and the secret is art. Art is an amazing loophole that the tax will use to avoid taxes, and this is how they do it. They'll go buy a $1,000 painting that they love, oftentimes from a friend. This $1,000 painting will go on their wall, they'll have it for about a year, but then after a year, they will have an appraiser come and appraise that painting. The amazing thing about art is it's extremely subjective, and you have no idea what that art's actually going to be worth. So you may have bought it for $1,000, but you have an appraiser tell you it's worth $10,000. Once you have an appraiser tell you it's worth $10,000, you can take that piece of art and go donate it. Once you donate it, they get to take the appraised value of that art, and it's a charitable contribution. You get to write it off your taxes. This is how the rich use charity to avoid taxes, and the secret is art. Art is an amazing loophole that the tax will use to avoid tax.
I think a lot of people know this. It's a very known scam or whatever. It's kind of like it was happening with the NFTs when the NFTs came out. It's like that shit didn't have no value at all. It was all related to money laundering and tax evasion and all of that shit. Shady, 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 shady. So yeah, using art to avoid taxes and all of that it's been happening a long time.
$10,000, donated it, and wrote $10,000 off your taxes. Taxes is about using the tax code to your benefit and not to your hinderment. The government has a tax code that is a book thick, not because they want to make taxes impossible, but because they want to incentivize you towards certain actions. They incentivize you to having employees. They incentivize you to owning real estate. They incentivize you to charitable giving. There are certain behaviors that they want, and so they reward it. So instead of getting mad at the government when they take your money, figure out ways to lower your tax burden through charitable giving. Now, this is an example with $1,000 and $10,000, but you can do this on a much smaller scale. You can donate a myriad of things towards charity and write it off your taxes. If you're looking for more advice on how to grow your net worth, follow me. So you paid $1,000, got it appraised for $10,000, donated it, and wrote $10,000.
So yeah, incentivizing people to do certain things, like that is a thing. And like freaking, you also de-incentivize people to do certain things, like feeding the homeless and getting tickets and going to jail for doing that. What does that say? That says that they don't want you to feed the homeless. They're like, oh, it's because people are poisoning homeless people. No, that's bullshit. They just don't want you to feed homeless people. You know, they want homeless people to suffer. That's what they want. You know, they don't want you to be able to like be okay. They don't want you to look out for your friends and neighbors. They incentivize you to put money into these charitable donations instead of actually helping your neighbors, you know. And it's a way for you to feel like you're doing something good, to work on that side of you, your heart or whatever, and the money ends up not going to the stuff that you really wanted to go to. It ends up going in the pockets of the people who run these freaking if you want to make a lot of money, then open a nonprofit. Open a nonprofit organization, some kind of charitable organization, and you're gonna make a whole shit ton of freaking money, you know. And maybe you can use like 0.05% of it for that particular like endowments, that particular like issue or whatever, and the majority of the money just goes in your pockets of your friends and buddies and yours and your family members and shit, you know. Yeah, so the system, it incentivizes you to do certain things, and then de-incentivizes you to do other things, like helping each other is not what they want you to do. You know, they're gonna call it communism. So it says, what's something that everyday 9-to-5 workers can donate? They can you for tax write-off. Let's read some replies to that. It says clothing. Another one, it says clothing got a cutoff. I want to say after $150. We're trying to get it to where we like Trump. We want $30 in taxes when it's all said and done. Another one, it says that would be a business and using that income for real estate, then using depreciation for almost a complete write-off. Another one, it says church. Yeah, there goes another thing. Open a church. You want to make a whole bunch of money and you want to avoid taxes. Another one, it says start an LLC and stop playing with yourself, bro. You're missing out on 941s. It costs a lot of money to do an LLC. You know, so they said regular 9-to-5 workers. We are working check to check. We don't have any spendable liquid cash. We don't have the money to do the LLC. It says, doesn't really matter if all your tax money is going to Israel and other countries. I don't know how that is on the topic. Another comment, it says, you can do this with jewelry very effectively. It always appraises for more than you can sell it for. Rather than sell and take a hit, donate it for its appraised value to charity, think gala event, etc., and get the write-off. The deduction is likely more than you would have sold it for, plus you would have made someone very happy. Yeah, again, or you can just or you could just give some money to your neighbor, like but it's all about self, right? It's all about like how you can get your taxes down, you can make use of more money. It's like I can help someone and make myself money at the same time. Well, your real motivation is to make yourself money, or so again, incentives. Another one says they don't pay income tax over the difference between fair value and the cost. Question mark. It says, is it a legit appraiser who is determining the value, or is it appraiser or a colleague? Because if I can an appraiser bet, they tell me what the same piece is $5. Well, yeah, you find a friendly appraiser, or you keep going to different appraisers until you get the number that you want. That's what they do. Another one, it says you still need to pay the appraiser friend to mark it up that high. Another one, it says, for those who don't understand what this video is about, let me break it down for you. Another one, it says, and they typically donate it to someone in their close inner circle, so it's not really a loss. Yeah, so that's what be happening. I covered that in the show too. They do it a lot with like real estate and houses and stuff. Their neighbor, like they buy the houses, the house next door or whatever, and then donate it to their like cousin or something, like tax write-off, and the damn shit is still in there. And then they have fake companies. It's a lot of damn scams. Another one, that says examining tax strategies is common among wealthy individuals, often involving legal avenues like investments and deductions. It raises questions about the broader issue of tax system and the need for equitable structures that benefit society as a whole. Yeah, all these damn loops. And people are like, you could just use them yourself. I'm like, fuck that. Close all the loopholes. Close all of them. You know, we have a much better society as a whole as a result. But people support this shit because they're like, one day I could be rich. So I want to keep those loopholes open so that I can use them. If I could possibly be rich one day. It's 1:57 and I gotta work in the morning, so not much longer. Might cover that tomorrow. Check this out. It says Lancaster, California transformed its downtown in just 8 months, right, by redesigning its main street from a mini highway to a tree-lined boulevard. For the cost of $11.5 million, the project has generated $273 million in economic output since 2010, creating 800 jobs and nearly doubling tax revenue. So yeah, there's a lot of things that makes money, that makes sense and helps people. But it's crazy how, we don't do these things even though it's so many benefits from it. Like, look how just aesthetically how beautiful it is with all of the plumage and greenery that's on the street. It's really, really nice. And it makes money and it's better for the environment. So many pluses. And I would add, you can put some of these trees as nut and fruit bearing trees in there. Why not? It says only in California can they explain $250 million in profit from planting street trees. Let's read some replies on this. It says Hollywood explains that not street trees. It says we have neither the time nor the crayons to explain it to you. It says if you can't dumb it down, what good is it, the info to lay people? Comment, it says, whoa, design places where people actually want to be makes people actually want to be there. Insanity. Another 12-lane highway, please. I'm telling you, man. It says, great, now there's even less parking. So yeah, that's what you care about. Other than them making lots of money, it being good for the environment, what you care about is there's fewer places to park. Another one says, can someone explain what generated $273 million in economic output means? Unfamiliar with the terminology. let's read the replies on this. It says, output is a measure of all goods and services produced in a given time period by businesses and sold to either consumers or other businesses. So businesses around the area were able to generate more product to sell and more people, since I'm assuming tourist rates went up. Another one, it says, that makes sense. Thank you for explaining that. It says, I'm just going to need out for a second. Output is much higher than input because the multiplier effect. If a shop gets an additional $10 from increased tourism and pays a local worker $8, the local worker would then spend $7 of that back into other local businesses. So even though the tourist only bought $10, it has created 10 plus 8 plus 7 equal 25 economic output. It says, it means these guys are going to claim that every single dollar made on the street is a course of 14 years was because of those trees, even though it's a major highway full of businesses already. Yeah, well, people, if they don't really want to understand, they're not going to understand. Let's move on. Fresh calls for stock trading ban after U.S. lawmakers beat market in 2023. Yeah, so lawmakers beat the market. Go fucking figure. It says members of Congress should not be allowed to trade stocks, said one former congressional candidate. It's corruption. It says a financial watchdog group on Tuesday released its annual report on congressional stock trading, which shows that Congress blew the market out of the water in 2023, fueling fresh calls for a ban targeting U.S. lawmakers and their immediate family members. Members of Congress shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks with the companies they regulate for the same reason referees aren't allowed to bet on the games they officiate, Melanie Durango, a former Democratic congressional candidate who is now executive director of campaign for the New York Health, said in response to the Unusual Whales report. Nina Turner, who also previously ran for Congress and is now a senior fellow at the Institute on Race, Power, and Political Economy, agreed. As Turner put it, members of Congress should not be allowed to trade stock. It's corruption. While the Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act of 2012 was intended to ban insider trading by members of Congress, lawmakers are still permitted to buy and sell stocks, even those of companies impacted by their work on Capitol Hill. Revelations about lawmakers' stock market gains over the past few years, including previous reports from Unusual Whales, have bolstered efforts to pass legislation barring members of Congress, their spouses, and their independent children from trading individual stocks, such as bipartisan Restoring Faith in Government Act introduced in May. U.S. Congressman Ken Buck responded to the latest Unusual Whales report by promoting the bipartisan ban on Congressional Stock Ownership Act, which he introduced last year with Representative Matt Rosendahl and Pramila Jayapal, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Members of both parties have misused their influence to buy and trade stocks. This is an issue which hurts all Americans back, Buck said Tuesday. The bipartisan ban on Congressional Stock Ownership Act will ensure that Congress is voting to represent their constituents instead of their wallets. I'm telling you, like, this is corruption. Look at how many names can we name? What is it? See, I'm getting tired. I can't think of the people's names and stuff now. Who was the speaker, the majority speaker when the Democrats was in? What is her name? I can't think of her name right now. And then you have the lady who died. She died so rich. And it's like, where did she get all that money from? And the one that I'm thinking of is her husband beats the markets every time. Can't think of the names, man. I'm getting tired, y'all. This is corruption, y'all. And both sides are doing this. This is not a Republican or Democrat thing. Both sides are doing it. The names I'm thinking of in my mind, though, right now are both Democrats. Oh, I mentioned this earlier.
I'm here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, looking inside the window into Amos Miller's farm store operation here. We have multiple state troopers inside. We have coolers there on the ground that have been filled with products from Amos Miller's operation. We have multiple people in there. They've been inside Amos Miller's building here for hours, not allowing media in, searching the premises. I was told by one of the troopers that they are executing a search warrant and I was instructed that I cannot be inside. Again, if you followed Amos Miller in the past, you know that he's a local farmer here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, who provides organic products to his private buying club. People voluntarily choose to buy from him. I actually just spoke with a customer who came several hours today to purchase products. He's been a customer for 20 years, never been sick, never gotten sick, I should say, from Amos Miller's products. And here you have these two men coming over, pointing to these coolers. Again, these coolers have at least been partially filled with products from Amos Miller's store. It looks like they will be hauled off. You have these tyrants coming in and searching. And here's the problem with, you have these state troopers and these other, I'm assuming they work for the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. These people are at the heart of our tyranny problem in America. They'll tell you, I'm sure, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing what I was told. State trooper will say, I'm just doing my job. This is the problem we have in America. As long as there are people like this who will execute, who will follow the orders of the tyrants, the bureaucratic tyrants at the top, say, go do this, raid this man's farm, take his products away. As long as we have quote unquote regular, ordinary people like this, the people you see right in this video, as long as we have people like this who will enforce these man-made edicts, we will continue to have tyranny in America. And that's what we're seeing right here. The Amos Miller case has been an ongoing example of tyranny, of man-made law, and just an abandonment of justice. This is not justice. What you see here is not justice. Amos Miller has not broken the law of God. There's no victim here bringing a charge against Amos. Where's the victim? Where's the victim that is coming to the magistrate and saying, Amos Miller has wronged me and I would like him to make restitution? You're not seeing that. That's never been the case here with Amos Miller. It's always been the government wanting their share, playing the nanny, acting as the nanny, and trying to control. And the last thing these guys want is someone like Amos Miller to be successful, because he represents the opposite of the nanny state that they want to enforce upon us. So stay tuned. We'll have more here. It looks like they might be getting ready to leave.
So they want their check. Can y'all hear me? Can't hear myself. The government wanted their share. They want their check, and then they want control, and then they want to put the poisons in our damn food. So you got some organic farmers who are doing their own thing, and the government comes in, even though there's no victims, and breaking these people up. And also, they don't want real competition. So it says state troopers raided Amos Miller's organic farm in Pennsylvania today. The farm specializes in selling raw milk, organic eggs, grass-fed beef, and other nutritious foods to private buyers. It says in a recent development that has shaken the local community of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, state troopers and officials descended upon the organic farms of Amos Miller and well-known Amish farmer noted for selling organic meat and other products. Chris Hume, a reporter from the Lancaster Patriot, was present at the scene, but was barred entry by state trooper, and the authorities executed the search warrant. The details surrounding the search warrant and the reasons for the government interventions at Miller's farm remain unclear. However, such actions are not unprecedented. Miller has previously faced scrutiny for selling organic meat without adhering to certain regulatory procedures. This incident raises questions about the balance between state regulations and the rights of individual farmers to sell their products directly to willing consumers. Yeah. What is their motivation? Is it really because the people, aren't following the law? Or is it that, farmers like this could probably blow the hell up? But like I say, they don't really want competition. And they got a problem with us getting healthy food. And they want their piece of the pie, too. Sad. It says Illinois and Massachusetts voters seek to take Trump off the 2024 ballot. Groups of voters from Illinois and Massachusetts have filed motions to remove Donald Trump from the 2024 ballot, adding to the list of states where the former president faces challenges to his candidacy under the 14th Amendment Insurrectionist Clause. The challenge came to the U.S. Supreme Court, widely expected to review the state court ruling in Colorado, which found that Trump is ineligible to run for office, though the Colorado ruling only applies to the state. Any decision from justices could settle the matter for the entire nation. Yeah. So you got Illinois and Massachusetts added to the list of states that are trying to remove Trump from the ballot. Oh, I mentioned this earlier too.
And has been arrested after police say his 10-year-old son took his gun and shot and killed another 10-year-old boy in Sacramento, California. Investigators say the man asked his 10-year-old son to go out to his truck to get him cigarettes, and while he was out there, the boy discovered his father's gun in the truck. Deputies say the boy took the gun from the vehicle and started to show it off, and that's when they say he allegedly fired it, striking his friend in the head and neck area. Deputies say the shooter then ran into an apartment.
There's no fighting. There was nothing that led up to this at all.
Detectives say they found the gun in a nearby trash can. The boy's father wasn't even legally allowed to have the gun.
Dad's a felon. Dad's not legally allowed to own a firearm to begin with. The gun's actually stolen.
The father has now been booked into jail on a firearm-related charge, child endangerment, and accessory after the fact. A memorial was held for 10-year-old Keith Frierson near where the shooting happened.
The other little boy that was outside, he came up to me last night and said, well, who's going to play with me now?
This one rocked us. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This rocked the deputies on the ground who had to give CPR to a 10-year-old kid.
A 53-year-old man has been arrested after police say his 10-year-old son took his gun and shot and killed another 10-year-old.
What a sad story here. Dang, why are you sending your kid out to the car to get cigarettes? You know, what the F? You know, I guess this one goes with the people who will be on the other side of the argument from me about the gun regulations, because this guy wasn't legally able to hold a gun anyways. So, and that's the argument that people make, that, you know, the gun regulations would just hurt law-abiding people, and the people who are willing to break the law will be the ones with the guns. And I get that argument. And this story right here kind of supports that. And earlier I mentioned that, you know, this guy is going to jail behind this situation, but it's probably not, because, like I say, it should be laws more in place for when people, you know, aren't, you know, safely locking up their weapons, and then the kids get a hold to it or whatever. But I don't think that that's the reason why he's going to jail. It's because he was already a convicted felon, wasn't supposed to have a weapon in the first place, and all of that. So, and then somebody died, and that's probably the reason why he's going to jail in this circumstance. So CBS News, it says 50-year-old man has been arrested after police say his 10-year-old son took his gun and shot and killed another 10-year-old boy in Sacramento, California. What a really sad story right here. Terrible. So yeah, people need to have their guns locked up. Like, even though, you know, like I say, it was illegal for him to even possess a weapon, you know, I think the extra charge should be on this, you know, failure to keep your firearm safely locked away. 10-year-olds shouldn't be able to just get access to your weapon like that. So you were reckless and allowed your weapon to get, you know, someone else. What if freaking, like, your op or whatever, your freaking somebody wanted to harm you or whatever, and they could just go and get your weapon and get, you know, hurt you, shoot you. Like, it seems like it would behoove you to make sure that your weapon is secure at all times. And I think that goes along with the part where the training related to firearms, because safety will be a big part of training, and keeping your firearm secure is a big part of safety. Comments, it says, so because the dad had a gun and was a felon, this is his fault. Did he ask his son to get the cigarettes or to pick up the gun and shoot his friend? I know we're parents, but damn, does he really have to get blamed for this? Absolutely, he needs to be blamed for this. He's being not responsible, you know. You know, it's a little kid. Little kids make bad decisions. It sounds from the story that the kid was just playing with the gun. So then the safety wasn't on. It was already loaded. It wasn't locked away. The little kid went and got the gun and was playing with it and probably accidentally killed his friend. Yes, absolutely, it's his fault and he should be held accountable for it. Yes, it's his fault. What, you gonna blame the 10-year-old kid? It says calling a child the shooter instead of a child does not sit well with me. This whole thing is tragic. It is tragic, but the child was the shooter. Another comment says, another proof that not everyone deserves to have children. Another one that says, shaking my head, the shooter. He's a kid, so refer to him as that. Okay, he's a kid shooter. Another comment that says, perfect, start charging the parents. You see how all Republicans will start voting for gun control regulations. I think they need to charge their parents, because if the parents are worried about going to jail behind something their kid did with a weapon, then they're gonna pay more attention and they're gonna keep their weapons away from their kid, or they're gonna keep an eye on their kid and make sure that they're not doing nothing crazy. Because if their kid goes and does a school shooting and the parents just don't get aren't held accountable, then they're gonna be like, oh, it wasn't my fault, the kid just did it or whatever. It's like, no, hold them accountable, and that'll have pressure on the situation to make things better. Bad ghetto parents, very predictable. Yeah, that got some racist undertones there. The United States is a sick place. They don't care enough to regulate guns severely. There was also another mass shooting today over there. It says, I have no sympathy for irresponsible parents. Another one, arrest the gun manufacturers. What? That's got to be sarcasm. Another comment, I see only Black parents being held accountable for their children's actions. Another comment, it says, well, if it wasn't registered and legally permitted to that man, then he's right where he belongs. So, but I disagree with this as far as even if he was registered and legally permitted to have the gun, I think he still should go to jail. Another comment, it says, how did a 10-year-old son get to know how to use a gun? Why would you send him there when you know you kept your gun there? Carelessness, RP, little man, you'll forever be remembered as light. It says, how does a 10-year-old get to know how to use a gun? A lot of people teach kids how to use guns, and actually I think that's a good thing. But I think in this situation, the kid probably didn't know how to use a gun, and you don't really have to know how to use a gun to be able to shoot it. Like, you pull a trigger, like, it's really self-explanatory. Like, a baby could shoot somebody. Like, it's not complicated. But if the kid was trained on the weapon, then this shooting probably wouldn't have happened. Another comment says, choices. Parents have got to make better choices. 2 young lives destroyed. That child may never be okay after accidentally killing his friend. It says, so sad that dad knew his gun was in the car. Why would you send your 10-year-old child to your vehicle knowing that you have a loaded weapon in your car? Many weapons and little awareness and education. Too many guns floating around. I'm gonna get out of here, y'all. Let me see. Is there something related to what I already talked about? I'm going to get out of here. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for joining. Peace and love. We will be back tomorrow.